Hello, 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 everybody. This is my take on reality, James, and with me is
Jenny from Senior Perspective.
there you go. See, we've been practicing, guys. It's coming together like a Hannibal plan from the A-Team. It's coming together.
Hours of work.
Right. Many tries, many fails, but now we are successful. Showing the power of stick-to-itiveness and perseverance.
That's right.
Oh wow, stumbling all over it. So hopefully everybody had an awesome week this week. As discussed last week, we've started the celebrity chapters, and this week we're currently on the Christine portion of the celebrity chapter. And I have to tell you, from my perspective, I think that this was the best chapter in the book. I think that Christine understood the assignment and she actually completed the assignment, as opposed to giving us like the distractive, well, this is what happens when Cody be messing up. So she actually talked about the actual subject of the chapter.
Right. As opposed to the other ones who took a 4-sentence paragraph and addressed the topic and then just talked about a bunch of other stuff in the rest of the chapter.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about things that have nothing to do with any of this.
That's right.
If anything, I kind of have a feeling too that because I haven't read, I'm kind of reading along as we go along. So I'm kind of suspecting that Robin's chapter, because what I see in a lot of the previous chapters so far is that there are a lot of grievances that are being meted out, and there are a lot of kind of that, I'm about to call it the backwash of re-explaining. Like they're going back trying to re-explain things that either happened on the show or things that were brought up during the course of the book. And they're taking a lot of the folks who are the other authors are taking the opportunity to try to settle those outstanding accounts. So you know,
they have only 4 topics to fit under. So when they want to get their issue out, it's kind of like, well, I don't have a whole lot to say about celebrity. So I'll answer, I'll put a couple sentences in. But let me tell you, I've got other things on my mind. I'm going to throw it in the celebrity section of the book.
Right. It's weird.
Or maybe they just didn't even understand what they were supposed to, what the assignment was.
Right.
Christine is the only one, as you said, Christine's the only one that understood the assignment.
Right. And the one thing that I will say that I noticed right as I read through it and finished it, it was kind of amazing to me because this was the first chapter in the book, or at least to my recollection, that didn't talk about Robin directly or even try to address any of the issues that they had with Robin.
Yeah.
Like this is strictly from Christine's perspective about how she feels about this particular topic, and that's it. Like usually there's usually a Robin tie-in, her coming into the family, or how she deals with the kids, or something that happens with the kids and how it's impacted by her presence. But this was the first chapter, at least to my recollection, in the book, the entire book thus far, that didn't talk about Robin at all. If anything, they might have mentioned I think there was one sentence. Wow. There's one sentence where Christine had said the 5 adults, but that was it.
Yeah.
That's as much as she received,
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. I didn't realize it, but you're absolutely right, which is amazing to think about because Christine is always accused of not being supportive of her. And like, there's all these negative things. And for her to just like, nah, I'm not even addressing Robin here.
Right.
I'm just going to go about my way and do my own thing. That's interesting because there's a lot of mudslinging in all the rest of the chapters and in this, including in celebrity as well. That's a good catch there, James.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's because there's a lot of because as you mentioned, I think you even said it before with Mary and Janelle, there was like a lot of shots that were being given that were just kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a better parent, but I'm not saying it. Yeah,
I
just
do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Not that I'm better than anybody, but also other people might do this. They'll do this generalization. Other wives might do this approach, which is directly related to a certain. Other wives might do this, but we're all working hard.
right. Just in our own way. It's
Yeah,
kind of it's because I kind of got the feeling it was like, good parents do A, B, and C.
yeah.
But there are other people who do different things, Janelle, and so it's a backhand way of going about it. But I mean, whatever.
Which is really funny because I put out I just said hello, sister wives, to everyone in the chat. I meant sister friends. I've changed it to sister friends. They're probably like, what?
Right.
That's what I get for trying to type and talk at the same time. I thought I was good at it. No. Okay, what were we saying? I've already lost my train of thought because I'm like, I called everyone a sister wife.
Well, hello, brother husbands. Like,
That's right.
but we're talking about them being like slighting each other, using the other chapters to kind of go after one another as far as the
Yes.
parenting, and Christine being on point as far as the assignment with this particular chapter.
Yes. I have a video that just went out today and another one that's going out on Tuesday. And one of the two of them, I can't remember which one it was. But one of them, that's almost exactly what I did, was call out Cody and Robin's parenting.
Right.
So I was sort of like, they're like, and I didn't sugarcoat it like they do.
Right.
And it's, well, each to their own. Actually, there was one line in there where I went, well, do what you want. However, I was pretty straightforward about the fact that, not so great.
Right. Not hitting all the cylinders like you think you are, but that's
Yeah.
okay. We all can be winning, I guess.
That's right. Not always. That's right.
But what were your thoughts about the chapter? Like, what did you think about it in general?
I enjoyed it. Just like the last time we had a Christine chapter, we got context and information and stats and stuff that hasn't come up on the show and really hasn't come up on social media. I love it when I read something that I'm like, how come nobody's talked about this?
Right.
So good. It was a good chapter. And I would say if I had to summarize it for Christine, it was a chapter of her eyes were opened. I feel like it was a chapter of her explaining the process of going through all the steps to become an open family that's going to share their lives with everybody and what was all involved with that along the way, to make everyone else's eyes opened. And in the meantime, she learned that America has pretty open eyes anyway.
Right.
And I wrote somewhere when there was kind of like a directly in the chapter related to something she said, that I felt like along the way, so she realized everyone's eyes were open. And I feel like part of the secrecy, which she talked a lot about, they had such fear of persecution that they kept everything really secret. And by doing that and staying so insular, they didn't realize the rest of the world had changed from how it was 2 generations ago.
Right.
And they didn't need to keep it quite so secretive, and it was okay to come out. So I felt like it was just sort of like a aha moment, eye-opening chapter for Christine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, because so much of what they write as far as, or even talk about during the course of a lot of their descriptions of being polygamous and how the world sees them.
Yeah.
I don't think that a lot of people, even with the objections that they think people have about polygamy, people aren't upset about who you sleep with and how you sleep with. Like, I could care less how you get down in your personal life, as long as, for me, it's just basically 2 things. Like, one, the age of consent has to be there. Like, the people have to know what they're getting involved. They have to be able to consent to participating in said activity. And if they know what they're doing and they're adults, you can do whatever you want. Get your freak on, knock yourself out, have fun, have at it, Hoss. Do what you got to do. But at the same time, I think that we also have to take a look at the fallout or the consequences of participating in certain actions. Like, and that goes with anything. Like if I was talking to somebody about riding motorcycles and the guy said, "Hey man, when I ride my motorcycle, I like to feel the air, running through my hair as I'm riding down the highway at 80 miles an hour," then I might say to that guy, "Yeah, I understand and I see where you're coming and you're certainly free to do that. However, the smarter thing to do would be to, one, slow the bike down, but two, put a helmet on your head because, they're feeling the concrete might running through your head will give you a different experience." So,
right. Or suffer the consequences.
Right, exactly. There are consequences to everything you do. So it's just, when you put this, and that's one of the things that I will say about like even talking about this chapter and how Christine, or the reasons why Christine got involved, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's not just, oh, this is a great alternative lifestyle and it's just something else to do. There are consequences with participating in this type of lifestyle. Yeah. And, we saw that in season 16, 17, and 18 just recently, what those real live world consequences actually could be if these relationships fall apart. And I think that that's something that if we're going to talk about it and present it as, this is an alternative, we have to be able to present the downside of those alternatives as well.
Right. Right.
Just to give everybody a full picture.
And that whole arc just came true in the show. It started off, and we learned in this chapter that according to Christine, that Tim, their producer, definitely had the notion of, wow, people really make fun of y'all and you're doing it different from what's been on television. So let's really show this side and get it out. So, which you can see in the show. There's so much of that explaining, hi, I'm a polygamist and I am normal. All those scenes over and over and over again. I feel like Tim finally figured out how to stop beating a dead horse halfway through the whole series. It's like, okay, we don't have to say that anymore. Just talk about the family. That's all we need to do. So there was this agenda sort of at the beginning of we're great, we're normal, we're fine, we're fun, we're everything. And then you follow the whole arc of 18 seasons and get to the end and realize, yep, you're normal, just like every other family. Right. Don't address issues, have communication problems, have anger issues, may end in divorce at the very end, just like everyone else.
Right. But like love, sometimes those problems get multiplied. So
yeah, exactly.
There's that.
There's that.
Because when we first started with the chapter, one of the things that Christine talks about is being from a prominent polygamous family. And I think that was, again, that's one of their, there are certain things that you write and you may say that you don't realize at the time how impactful that statement is. But I think that statement is loaded. It's a loaded statement because it shows the importance of Christine, not only to the family, but within the church, and maybe even give us some perspective as to why Cody would even ingratiate her, especially because he was so disgusted by her and so on and so forth. And what part of that attraction was. She is an important person in the church. I might never have heard of Christine Brown, but people in that church knew who she was because she was part of that legacy and that lineage. Yeah. So what did you think about her opening up, because it's in the first couple sentences where she starts talking about how she's from this prominent family and, she's not well-to-do, but she's a staple within the church.
Yeah. And she's well known. As you were talking about that, it made me wonder. I feel like at one point in this book, when Robin was referring to her previous marriage, that she referred to her ex-husband as being from a prominent family in the church. And I wonder if, just conspiracy theory, I wonder if when they got to read each other's chapters and then go back and tweak their own to maybe address issues that the others had said, if she decided, let me go back and add who really the prominent family is in our church.
Right.
He's kind of the black sheep of his semi-prominent family. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a whole different situation.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Christine and
Yeah.
Robin's ex-husband are cousins. They're from the same family.
There's so many cousins that a lot of them hadn't even met each other. Like I didn't, I reviewed a cousin who never met Christine, who had done a talking, but she knew other people in the family, and she knew Cody just from the church because it's not that big. And she obviously knew of Christine, but they didn't hang out and they were a little bit different ages. But what surprised me the most, because there's all these cousins, because there's all these kids, this is how the families go. We don't, we have as many children as God wants us to have, and there may be favor in heaven from it as well. I'm not sure exactly the doctrine they follow. I found it really interesting that Christine's father only had 2 wives. So he is like Christine's grandfather, prominent, because he really started this whole AUB. He was the break off that started this whole sect. So if you want to talk prominent, okay, she's the queen. She's part of royalty, or the princess, as she calls herself. She falls, in the lineage of the king of it. But it only one down is her father, and her father only took on 1 other wife, which then makes me think, I thought it just very odd at first, because I'm thinking certainly there's other women who would be interested in being his wife. And he wasn't a bad looking guy, and he seems sweet and nice. And, Christine never said there were issues with him. And if you're going to marry Cody, obviously people are, sort of like, yeah, he'll do. So I'm a little confused by that, and because he's the father of the head of the church. So talk about being in a prominent family that seemed to carry significance to these people in their faith, where, what part of, what lineage do you fall underneath? It's kind of like falling under the lineage of Abraham or Jesus. Like, how far can you track back, or which line are you in? Right. So they seem to find it important. I found it really interesting that he only had 2 wives, so a total of 10 children altogether between the 2 wives, which is really kind of small for, especially at the beginning of starting this whole faith. I wonder why only 2. And then I also started to wonder, could this be part of his true fear? Because the chapter gets into that as well. His real fear of prosecution and the family being torn apart based on his experience when he was a child and when his parents. And we can get into that whole detail and that too. But that's what stood out to me so much at the beginning. So she's talking about this prominent faith, and then right away she goes into her father and how he had 2 wives. And I was just sort of like, that's the first time it hit me. And I'd read this before, but I didn't catch that before. I'm like, he only had 2 wives. Why do you only have 2 wives? That's very interesting. I'm so curious about that, which makes me believe that, and I did believe that her father was fearful. I'm gonna keep getting off track if I keep talking. But I also feel like I relate. I love her father. I just think he's the cutest thing. And in the wedding episodes, I just thought he was adorable. Right. But I feel like the grandfather, I actually identify a little bit more with. I really feel like the grandfather, even though he started this faith and, that he was a little bit more open-minded. He wanted things coming out in the open. He wanted to make sure there wasn't secrecy. He wanted to be out there, and thus the persecution, which, didn't really last that long. It wasn't really like the persecution of people who committed the crimes in other sects that were, underage bride crimes and all these other things. His was persecution for polygamy. So I really found it interesting that the grandfather, the one that was actually persecuted, was the one that was like, nope, we still need to be out in the open. It's very important not to have secrecy. When there's secrecy, things go wrong and crimes are committed. We need to be open and out there. And the father, his son, took a different stance And it seems like he kind of brought the church back in again because he was so fearful of he was more fearful than the grandfather was, even though the grandfather actually got persecuted. The father, I mean, he was a child. He was what, maybe 9 at the time. It left such an indelible impression on him that I really think it carried through and affected the rest of his life. And so he kind of like, 2 wives, that'll be good. And we're not talking about it. And Christine, don't tell your friends. Like, we're going to try to keep this as quiet as possible. And really kind of took a different, even with serving. And he got drafted. Christine's father got drafted. And he did not want to go. He wanted nothing to do with it because, he felt like it was against his, that they were persecuting him and his religious freedom, his civil rights. I mean, there's a lot of argument. We could go back and forth on that. Were your civil rights really violated when part of your civil right is freedom of speech or freedom of religion? You're breaking an actual law as part of that. I mean, if you say, well, this is my religion and we sacrifice children, it's not okay. You can't, there's times you can't claim this is my civil right. And it was a law at the time. So, he was breaking the law, and it felt like, so the father, Christine's father, was really against it. Whereas the grandfather, the one who started the church and one who actually got persecuted, said, no, this is our country. You go serve the country proudly, do your duty, and come back. And so I found that dynamic fascinating at the beginning of this chapter. Just the whole notion, the difference in how they looked at the AUB church between the grandfather and her father.
Right. Well, I think that there's also a point, like with the with her father, there's also the point that her mom actually left the dad. So there's a possibility, like her mom was actually a basement mother, a basement wife. So there's a possibility that he actually may have fallen in love with the second wife that he had. And so he didn't feel compelled to add additional wives because, like with the Robin situation, he was tied to the woman that he wanted to be with and didn't really feel like expanding the family, and then probably went through the whole thing of failing because he lost a wife. So he couldn't expand the family bigger. But I do think that there's I think there's a lot of credence to there is a sense where they're trying to make themselves victims of society to a degree, that there's a level of oppression, and the father's way of fighting that oppression is because he didn't have certain civil rights, which, I mean, it hits. The thing is that, especially when you're writing books like this, I understand where everybody is coming from, because there are certain things that you can say in these types of books that hit different groups differently. And so that whole, like, oh, well, he would have been going off to fight for the liberation or freedom or defending the country, when he himself couldn't appreciate the full depth and breadth of having true freedom because his civil rights are being infringed upon. This is very similar to, like, for instance, my father was in the Marine Corps. I should say, wasn't a Marine Corps. He's a Marine.
I was going to say former. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, you're never a former Marine. You're just not active anymore.
Right.
But he's a Marine. And when the war broke out and everything was going on, and he signed up to be in the Marine Corps, segregation was still going on. So it's, you know what I mean? So legitly, that would be an instance where he's going to go defend the country, and yet he's still, he can't appreciate the full depth and breadth and beauty of being an American citizen because he was considered a second class citizen at the time. So it would, like, that I think that segment or that blurb is kind of I won't say is borrowed from, but it speaks to folks who may have been in that condition. Now, like what you were saying, there is a point where if you want to have civil disobedience, or you want to try to push and change these laws, there are ways that you can go about it through civil disobedience, through protests, so on and so forth. but you have to recognize that you have to have skin in the game. When these changes happen, people were sitting at like the whole idea of like sit-in, so on and so forth. People were being arrested because those things were against the law. So if this is something that you're willing to fight and go to jail for because you believe in it, then you have to you have to be willing to face it. You
Yeah.
can't just hide in the corner, hide in the rafter somewhere and say, well, we're being oppressed. You have to be able to stand up and defend yourself. So in that regard, I appreciate, thank you for your service and all that. But at the same time, if this is something you believe in, then you kind of what Christine and Cody, the Brown family did later on, coming out and saying, this is who I am. That's what was needed in order for you to bring it to light. So we could have this open discussion.
True. True.
Because even with because I'll even take it from here, from this perspective. Janelle had said during season 18 when she went out to the the retreat with Christine, and she met with Christine's brothers, and she said that this should be legalized and the wives should be given some kind of power of ownership. They should be able to divide property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have property rights, essentially, have marital rights and marital status. The issue I have with that is that in itself sounds good, and I don't disagree with it. However, the problem comes in practice. How do we implement that? Like, are you entitled to, like in this particular family, when Robin came into the family, was she immediately entitled to 1/5 of the family's assets? And that works. If everybody has their own home, then it's not so bad. But if you are all in the Lehigh house and Robin is living around the corner in a rental and she's married into the family, she technically would have, that's the only house you guys own. That's the only property you own. So when she marries into the family, does she now get 1/5 or 1/4, like excluding Cody? Does she get 1/4 of that property or asset? And when does her rights kick in? And are we doing like is it equitable adjustment? Do you depend on how long you were married, how much you contributed? What judge is going through that math?
Right.
And
Can you imagine? And then what? They have to all sell the one house that they all live in, all those wives and kids, so that they could get a portion of that to give to her. And then they go where? Like, you're right. What a mess.
Right. And that would be that's the big problem, is that when I heard her say that, I was like, you could have somebody marry into the family and bankrupt the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the crazy part is that, especially understanding she came in with that much debt, $60,000 worth of debt, you could make the argument that, oh, that's pre-existing debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if the family started to take on some of that debt so that they could pay it out, whether it's through loans to pay the debt off so that she could qualify for the house, or they're making adjustments and they're using some of their capital to help pay down that debt, can some of that debt be reassigned back into the family? A lot of folks are going to say, no, absolutely not. But there is a possibility. There's also a possibility anytime you step in front of a judge, just as a general rule, my general rule, anytime you step in front of a judge, there are things that are laid out that are supposed to happen, that are predictable, but then every now and again, something may happen that you can't predict. A judge may make a decision that you disagree with and doesn't necessarily follow law, and you have to figure out how you're going to, you have the right to appeal, but you got to come up with appeal money. And that's where a lot of folks get jammed up. See, court is not unpredictable.
Yeah.
That's why I try to avoid it at all costs.
very, very smart advice.
I try to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah. Well, and they do too. They really haven't been they had a lawsuit, but they filed the lawsuit against the state. Other than that, I don't think anybody's ever sued them, and I don't think they've ever been. In fact, even these divorces, shockingly, there's been no lawsuits with Janelle or Mary or Christine. It's just sort of pick up and go when they were done, and off they went.
Yeah, they just walked away, which again, this is and this is one of the things that, like, I appreciate the show. I think that it opens up the conversation for polygamy, but I don't think it's a fair assessment as
Mm.
to how most of these families are conducted. Like, I don't think that there's families sitting around with 5 and 6 properties just laying around, and extra land laying around,
Yeah.
and they're arguing and fighting over the extra, like the second homes. Like, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like,
Right.
they're fighting over scraps. And
Yeah.
so if you're barely feeding your family and you're struggling when you're feeding your family as it is now, to have a divorces can be financially crippling to
Mhm.
individuals. Like, it could be devastating. Like,
Oh gosh.
people don't recover from divorces financially. It
Mhm.
ruins them. You know,
Mhm.
bankruptcies and everything else are filed behind divorces. So to
Mhm.
have like 5 different or 4 wives, and and then not to mention what happens with the child support. Lord have mercy. Like, like
Right.
kids.
You know how many years and how much money it would be if those wives decided to take if they could have taken
Mhm.
him to court for divorce and child support? Well, not a whole lot of child support because most of them were past 18 by the time, but there were a few in there.
Right.
Even just the divorce and trying to make things even, and then another divorce comes in at the same time, so that affects the first one, and you're right, he would have been completely ruined. Any pennies that he has left would have been completely gone for him
Right.
fighting those lawsuits.
Yeah, he would have been working for child support.
Yeah,
And
he needs to thank them. He really
yeah.
does. I feel like there's an argument in there, even if there's not a legal document. I feel like there's enough footage to show intent
Mhm.
in the courts to say, you know what, this person has lived with me for this amount of years, almost like a common law marriage type situation. Been
Mhm.
together for 30 years and
Right.
had these kids, and so, yeah, we're now leaving, and here's documentation of him calling me his wife all of these years. I'd like
Right.
something, dear judge.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy too, because the same protection, and this is just, because I don't think any of us really understand how the money works.
Yeah,
Because they aren't very clear about how the money works. But
right.
with everything that's said, one of the funny things to me is that the same protection he has, as far as, well, Your Honor, these weren't my wives. I'm only allowed one legal wife.
Mhm,
Robin is my legal wife. These women are just people whom I have relationships with. The funny thing is that if your wife gives you money for a property, then that's joint tenancy, or is a tenancy by the entireties. It's the way you classify property ownership. Because you're married, you have a certain type of title for that real property.
hmm,
However, because they weren't married to him, any money that they give him is not a gift, or is not built into the family structure. This is
mhm,
the same thing as if you had a friend lend you $10,000, they could take you to court for
mhm,
lending you that money. If they lent him money so that he could purchase the house at like Robin's house,
mhm,
if they say, look, that wasn't a gift, he took money from an account that we set up, I want my money back, that's
mm,
a different thing. So when
mhm,
we say that they don't have rights to sue
mhm,
him for alimony, palimony, or any type of support that way, that's accurate. I think that that's, most of these courts will probably shoot that down.
mhm,
However, if they say that I put money into Cody Brown LLC, which I was a member of,
mhm,
he took money from the business that we set up to purchase a home for this other individual and himself. Now, whether I agreed with it or not, that was still my money. So I have investment in that house because that was property or money that came out of our business.
mhm,
I mean, because they are business, they might not be husband and wife legally, but they
mhm,
are legally business partners.
mhm,
And you legally took, you would legally or illegally, you took money out of your business and used it for personal funds.
mhm.
So
The
I think
fact
that there's
that
something there.
and the fact that he just recently dissolved that LLC makes me think what was left in it got, like, Janelle got her last portion. And maybe that's what she used to buy the land that she has also, because I don't know. I mean, I feel like we would have already found out if the Coyote Pass land had been sold. So I feel like whatever money was left in that family fund, the Cody Brown LLC, it's now completely dissolved and doesn't exist anymore. Find it very interesting that he called the LLC Cody Brown
Yeah.
LLC. And he's just a piece of work.
Yeah. Well,
The
yeah,
worst.
ego.
Yeah.
He was like the
Yeah.
proprietor. He made the
Yeah.
decision. But it was Cody
Yes.
Brown LLC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The show is called Sister Wives, but he's setting
Right.
up Cody Brown LLC where all the money will go.
Well, it's technically Cody Brown Entertainment LLC.
Okay.
But they were going to branch out into, like, he's starting an entertainment empire.
Right.
So that was going to be the
He's
that's what
eventually gonna do his dancing, and
yeah, he was. Because, like I said, I think that ultimately, we kind of talked about it earlier with Vixen and a couple other people. I think Teresa Skinner had mentioned it. Like, I think that early on, his original thought with marrying Christine was that he was going to get a leg up in the church, and this was a way for him to kind of fast track his status within the church. And so he marries one of the blue blood royalty folks. And then that doesn't work out as well as I think he thought it was going to. And as we get into this chapter, I think that there's also indications that he thought that this would be a way for him to be able to get into a leadership position, cultivate a leadership position for himself. Because even with the move to Las Vegas, I've always held it part of the benefit of them moving to Las Vegas, aside from being close to Robin's parents, was that there was nobody else in that area who were from his church. So by him doing that, moving his family to that area, and them being as popular as they were because they're on TV, that gives him the opportunity to be able to start his own section of that church in Vegas. So he could have become a church leader in Vegas by default because he was the only one that was present.
Yet he decided to go way the other way.
Yeah. Well, it just didn't work out. Like, cause like, as crazy as it is, here's the weird part about it. And like, we'll get into it because I have some things to point out specifically about this to support this notion. I've always got the feeling with Cody, and if Cody ever sees this, he's more than welcome to call in, whatever. Well, I'll put you on. But to disagree, we can have the conversation. But I always kind of felt like he's always wanted to be the leader of an organization, of a group, or of whatever.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to necessarily do the work that's necessary to be in that position. So he doesn't want to start a business. He wants to join a business and take it over. He didn't want to, like, starting that religion. He didn't want to start his own religion. He wanted to have that religion out there and then establish it, and then have everybody kind of work for him or under him. And he just does the direction, but he doesn't have to do any of the legwork, any of the hard work. It's kind of the whole real estate episode where he comes out and he's kind of bossing people around, even though he's at the same level as Janelle and Christine, but he's still standing there telling them what to do.
Yeah.
He's in charge. But in order for you to be the boss, you have to understand what the job is. So in order for you to,
he didn't understand that concept at all. It was like,
right.
Day one, I'm putting signs out and hanging flags. Yeah, this isn't for me. I'm gone.
Right.
He had no idea about what it meant to, because there's benefit in doing all those jobs leading up to it. So someday when you are the head of the company and everybody's doing everything else, you are understanding what they're doing. He didn't understand that concept whatsoever, or just even the concept of, you want to be up here, you start down here, you work your way up. That's how it is in most jobs. Start at the bottom and you work your way up. You prove yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He didn't understand that.
Because it's like even with selling houses, Like, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to sell houses, but in order for you to be able to do this, you have to go to 6 weeks of school. You have
Mhm.
to take and pass a test. You have to get your license.
Mhm.
These are steps that you have to take. And then, okay, we're going to have you set up the open houses. Open houses, although they're fun and they're great, they're entertaining. That's not selling your house. Like, for the most part, like, open houses are a way for you to get it out there and for people to kind of walk through your house and see your place. But
Mhm.
ultimately, in my opinion, I don't think open houses sell your house.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not like, it's the legwork that goes into it. Like, you have to, like, I had a really good realtor when I moved into this house I'm in now. Like, I had a really good realtor. And one of the things that he did, like, I would look up places on my own and I would send it to him, like, yeah, I want to check this place out, check that place out. And he would hit me back with like different locations we could go to. And I would go in and I would give my input. My wife would give her input, and we would all tell him, like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and he would listen. And
Mm.
so he finally came, he's like, okay, you like this kind of floor plan, you want this kind of house, you want this kind of lanes, you want this, and this. And then he found the house basically that, you know, pieced all the stuff that we had said that we wanted. He pieced it all together, and that's how he found the house that we're in now. When I walked into this, I was like, damn, this is the, this is the house I've been
My
thinking
dream
about.
house. How'd you
Right.
know?
You read my mind, player. But it's that legwork. And we
Mhm.
went to a lot of house, and that's why I know that, like, being a realtor is a lot of work, and you're
Mhm.
dealing with a lot of people. Like, and I'm not really I try not to be a hard person to get along with, but I know there are people who are like just jerks. And
Mhm.
so, but you're dealing with those people too. And it's not just, you know, I want that house and I'm going to write you a big old check because I want that house. It's the showing up and constantly showing up and understanding what you can get, what you can show people, what are they into when they say they want something. You don't really want you know what I mean, understanding the people that you're dealing with. And I don't think that he really thought that that's what it was. He just thought that, hey, I show people houses, they give me money,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. The amount of legwork and free work, if you will, that
Right.
you have to do ahead of time. I mean, sometimes you fall right into it. The house we ended up buying here, I found online. I
Hmm.
called, um, hmm, not the realtor who was listing it. So it must have been listed. I don't know how I ended up with her. I contacted somebody because I wasn't using a realtor at the time because we weren't really looking, but I was for over a year just online searching to like the perfect thing I thought came up. And I'm like, well, this is too good to be true. So let's go see what's wrong with it.
Right.
And contacted and the realtor took us. We looked at it, we put in an offer and counter counter back and forth once.
Mhm.
And then there we go. We bought the house. And I remember thinking, boy, that agent really did well with us.
Right. Right.
There was no other way. She volunteered. She's like, when I'm taking you there, I'm going to take you to 2 other homes in nearby district, or nearby developments that are around there that are kind of in that price point. I'm like, okay. All it did was make us solidify that we found the house that we really wanted because we went to those and like, yeah, don't like it nearly as much. What about this one?
Right.
Don't like it nearly as much. And she's like, this elementary is a little bit better. I'm like, it only goes till 4th grade. All the
Right.
kids are together from 5th to 12th. So they'll be fine. This one's not a bad elementary school. So that one might be like 1 point higher on scores or something. That's going to make me buy a house I don't like? What?
Right.
What are
Right.
you talking about? So she tried to still do her due diligence. Like she did more work than I asked her to do. She's like, let's go look at these other ones so you can see these too. And I'm like, yeah, no, I like the one I have. Let's go ahead and buy it. So she got
Right.
lucky. That's not how it normally is. I have a
No.
girlfriend that went into real estate and she thought this was going to be the way for her to leave her job. She went a whole year and never sold one house.
Yeah. It's a hard job. I mean, it's
Yeah.
because, like you said, a lot of it is working for free. And
Yeah.
that's where I think, like, that's the part where I think Cody was kind of stumbling.
Mhm.
And that fact that, like, even with your situation, you called the lady up. What I heard you say is that essentially she picked you up as a client because once she starts showing you houses around, she's, oh, can you sign this?
Yeah.
And that way I can represent you. So she
Yes.
picked you up. She was rainmaking, which is the hardest part of being a realtor is getting your clients and people to sign on the dotted line for you to represent them and
Mm.
find them homes.
Mhm.
And it's because it's not just a thing of, hey, I got Mr. Moneybags and he's looking for a new house. Cody, he's looking for $1 million home. Okay, cool. I'll show him around. I'll put him in my Lexus and drive him around, chat him up, and then I'll be able to talk him into buying his house. It's not just talking people into buying a house or tricking people into buying a home. It's putting people in the homes that they want, so that way, because I recommended my realtor that I talked about earlier, because actually my house, he got me in my house before it was even before it was even listed.
Yeah.
So I got a really good deal on it. But once he did that, like, I'm calling everybody. Oh, you were talking about moving to the area, man. I got the guy for you. And that's how you build a reputation. That's how you build your book. That's how you get those type of sales. But it's a lot of legwork that you have to be willing to do. And if you're not willing to work, then you're not going to get that payout. It's like Sister Wives Closet. Just because you come out with a couple pieces of jewelry and you put it online, that doesn't mean people are going to line up to buy it because you put it out and it says Sister Wives on it. And that's what I heard when they were when they rolled it out online, and they said, oh, you got people showing up. Oh, it looks like I'm going to have to get a mortgage, whatever, and he didn't care. Just buy my stuff. I'll put some junk jewelry out, get it. And that's,
you say that, because that's exactly where my mind went too, because there's very much parallels here between Cody's idea of that and Robin's idea of a bit. She had no idea. I was starting to get some clips together for just that over this past weekend of kind of the progression of this Sister Wife's Closet thing and her misunderstanding of the level of dedication that everybody else was going to be involved with it, and her complete lack of understanding of a business. I mean, which makes sense. She never ran a business. She never worked in a business. She never went to college. Right. Like, I mean, where does she think she's going to get this business experience from? She didn't need the college education, but she definitely needed the hands-on experience and to be in that world. And she had no clue. Plus, it doesn't appear that she really likes to work. So for her to run a business and to think that, I'll be the designer and I'll just draw some pretty ugly stuff and somebody will make it and everyone's just going to buy it because I'm Robin Brown is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Because I'm famous and I've been on TV, so they'll buy my stuff. And that's also in line with, like, I mean, Cody and Robin, they're closer aligned than I think, a lot of folks give them credit for. I think they're very much closely aligned because that's the exact attitude. Like, I don't want to work at the business. I don't want to grow the business. I just want to be in charge of the business, make decisions for the business, and have control of the money. I don't necessarily want to do the day-to-day grind of the business. That's why she was mad at the level of commitment from the other wives, because they weren't willing to come in and do 40, 60, 80 hours a week to make this business work while she takes time off because she's trying to get pregnant.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But so Christine was like talking about the chapter. Christine was saying that like we talked about grandparents being arrested for bigamy, and I think that that's something that was flushed through a lot of the TV show. Like they did talk about like that fear, that concern during the course of the show. And the police are looking at us, especially when they were doing the whole, in Vegas, this is why we have to move to Vegas because my grandparents was arrested. So I'm scared, that's so we saw a lot of that. But one of the things that really struck me that I wasn't aware of was that Christina said throughout the whole thing that she always wanted to be out. Like she always had the desire to let people know who she was, because during the show, that's the one side that they never showed, because they always presented Christine that she was scared to death of people finding out that she was a polygamist, a part of a polygamous family. Whereas in the book, she had talked about how she always wanted to be out and always wanted people to know.
She said that her personality is such that a lot of people ended up finding out anyway because she just couldn't help herself, because she's just a talker and she likes to talk to people and be social and everything. And it appears that she actually held herself back from participating in activities at school and whatnot. So obviously she didn't go to an AUB school. or maybe they don't when they're at the high school age. Maybe they all go to public schools at that point. But she really felt like she was holding herself back always because of the secret that she couldn't allow out. And you're right, on the show, they really flipped it. They just went with the narrative of, I'm scared because of what my grandfather went through. She really seemed to be the one beating the drum the most on the show. I don't know if they told her to keep talking about it or if they edited it that way, but you're right. The book is very different. It's a very different portrayal of her feelings. And I would think the book is more reflective, that she took the time to write the words down, that she probably felt more this way of like, I just want to tell everybody. I just want to get it out. And she was very happy when she started to do so. Well, I think they all were, really. They all seemed to be surprised that when they did start to share and come out and talk about their lives as polygamists, that they weren't shunned, that she gave the example. She got a job as a curator in an art museum when she was up in Wyoming shortly after getting married to Cody. And she worked in an office with just one other lady. And for those who haven't read the book, because they were just the two of them, there was a lot of conversation that happened throughout the day. And of course, the question came on day number one. So tell me about your family. What is your family situation? Of course, she just said, well, there's my husband and his two sisters, and all of us have kids, but financially we need to support his sisters. I know it's odd, but we're making it work. And that she got to her car in the parking lot, couldn't drive away, got out, got back into the building, and the lady she worked with, who was her superior, was shocked to see her back. And she basically said, I'm sorry, I lied to you. She came right out with it. I can't. We're going to be working together all the time. I just have to let you know. And the lady said, I thought so.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of that going on, that I think they thought they were being covert and secretive a lot of the time, and that a lot of people really knew what was going down. I don't believe there was a whole lot of, there were some. Mary shared that her bosses were surprised, and Janelle shared that her bosses were surprised too. Although I can see Janelle doing a much better job of keeping everything on the down low and maybe not even letting them know where she lives, and just being a little bit more secretive. So I almost get that one more. But yeah, like everybody who found out, they had, throughout this entire book, the only example I can think of is sort of Maddie in this chapter, when they told the kids, you can start telling all your friends who don't know. And then she admitted all their close friends knew anyway, but you could tell other friends. And Maddie had one example of kind of a mean girl who said, so is your dad a pedophile? And, went on and asked a couple questions. And then Maddie said, no, and this is how our family functions. And that the girl was fine with it after that.
Right.
It was almost kind of like, well, it's almost a legit question, because if you look at the news and what's been going on at that time, right before they came out, yes, that was the whole Warren Jeffs thing. So it's not that far out of line. It's just somebody who, there's probably a lot of kids that were thinking it and didn't say anything, like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, all right. And obviously her close friends knew exactly what their lives were like, because they were able to share that. So there was that Maddie situation, and I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously Cody has that one friend who is Mormon that was not happy, the one they showed on the show.
Oh yeah.
After many years, he got back together with, and he was not happy with him being in this faith. That was on the show, not in the book. In the book, I can't think of even one other example. And this is an opportunity for them to really reflect and share, this is why. But we didn't really get anything. Now, we did have Janelle's family initially in the book.
Right.
And that's significant.
They disagree with it. They shunned her or whatever.
Yeah. And eventually they all came around. So everything worked out in the end, but there was that period of time right at the beginning that they pretty much shunned her and her mom, because her mom went and married Wynn too.
Right.
Luckily, Janelle had her mom during that time.
Right. I think that some of it, though, is, I don't want to, diminish or invalidate anybody's feelings. Like, I think that if they felt like they were afraid, maybe they had reasons to feel like they were, being subjugated or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think that Christine was kind of more on track or more on point with the whole idea that most people don't care what it is you do in your bedroom or how you conduct your relationships. Because not even to be a jerk about it, but you're just not that important to them. Like, for them to care about, like, if my neighbor was, my neighbor is married, if him and his wife are swingers, as long as they're not trying to swing into my house, I don't care what they do,
No ropes come swinging into this home.
Right, exactly. It's not my business what they do. They do what they want to do. That's how they get their freak on. That's how you do your thing. You do your thing. As long as the kids ain't involved, I don't care. Like, it's just, I think that most people have that attitude. And the people who are over concerned about it, I think that it's more or less on them. And you weren't going to make them happy no matter what you did anyway. So it's really no point in you worrying about it. Yeah. But I appreciate Christine's. I think Christine was at a point where she could have kept it secret, but her situation from Janelle to Mary is a little different in the sense that Mary had one child that she could have easily lied about. I just focus on my child. Janelle, she was a career woman. So there's very possible that she gets to work. She's talking about her job. And, not a lot of people go to work and talk about their personal lives like that. They keep it very professional. And they just, because if you start talking about your, as a rule, you start talking about your personal life to people. If you bring it up as a subject, then that's an open subject for them to be able to talk about. So, a lot of folks just kind of keep it, keep their work and their work and their home life separate. And I can see Janelle being that person. Christine, on the other hand, she was the primary caretaker for the kids, the OG 12, I think at that time before Truly came. And so I can see her being overly involved and overly excited about things that are coming up in the kids' lives. So when they have like plays, sporting events, whatever the case, my son is going to be playing he's going to be wrestling this weekend, or my other son is playing football this weekend, and she's talking about Hunter and Logan. I have a daughter doing a cheerleading or whatever, and this is she's so excited. She's talking about Madison, so I can see her taking more of that, and therefore being in a situation where she's going to spill the beans because she is so connected to the other kids.
Right, they're like, boy, your 5 kids do a lot.
Right.
Saying everything that all 10 of them are doing or all 12 of them are doing. Yeah.
Like, your daughter plays football because remember, she only has Peyton.
Right.
Right. So what do you mean your son is playing football? You have a kid playing football. He's not old enough for that.
Yeah.
So I can see her being in that situation.
That's true. And we know that Janelle also she didn't share anything about her faith in general. She didn't even let them know that she was in the LDS church or not. Like, she literally kept it on the down low, even though most of them, she said, in the office were LDS. So all that did was allow her to have conversations and know exactly what they were talking about and throw a line in here and there without sharing anything about herself. And she said she even intentionally at times would do something like drink coffee to throw them off.
Right.
Apparently they never asked, which I find really interesting. I feel like if you work for so many years with somebody and you live in a community that's very LDS, and you're able to talk the lingo with them, and it appears as if you're part of that church as well, and then all of a sudden one day you start drinking coffee because you've got 6 kids at home and you're working there for 12 hours every day and you need it. So they would be like, and I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm more like Christine. I feel like I would just say to them, and I'm like, I said, how does coffee taste? I've never had coffee. What faith are you? Or are you just LDS and you drink the coffee, which is fine. Many people do.
I think that's part of it too. I think that like a lot of times, especially as we start to delve into other religions, people from the outside of the religion tend to be more hardliners of that faith
Mm-hmm.
that in some cases they're not a part of
Mm-hmm.
than the people who are actually in that faith.
Mm-hmm.
So if they saw Janelle drinking coffee, and she speaks the lingo, they'd be like, "Oh, she's LDS. She's just not practicing."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like if you go
Mm-hmm.
to the, you go to the strip club, you see the deacon there popping ones, making it rain. Like, like, whoa, deacon, what are you doing there? Yeah, you're not supposed to be in a strip club tossing up bills, but yeah, people do a lot of stuff.
That's
And
true.
he'll go on Sunday and he get caught and he'll say, I'm human and humans make mistakes. That's my
Nobody's
favorite.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's
We're all
perfect. Nobody,
sinners.
right,
That's
exactly.
why
Nobody
we're
said
in
that to be
church.
perfect.
It's not for the perfect people. It's supposed to be a hospital for all of us to get better.
Right,
Yeah. There's
right.
lots of lines to use there. Yeah.
Just say you're sorry and be over with it. You don't
Yeah.
have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was a point where and this is where it starts to get deep for me, because there's a point where Christine starts talking about her history with regard her history / involvement with trying to get the word out about polygamy and introducing it to mainstream America. And then she starts talking about her involvement in an organization called was it
Principal
Principal
voices.
Voices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how each one of each one of the churches or each one of the sects except for each sect of Mormon fundamentalism
Mm-hmm. Except
has
for the
2
FL.
members. Yeah, for the board of Principal Voices, except for the
Mm-hmm.
FLDS, which
Mm-hmm.
is Warren Jeff's group.
Yeah.
The mission of the organization is to educate others about polygamous families and culture. The group's goal is to empower both polygamous individuals and families, as well as to provide critics or crisis referrals and response to those in the lifestyle. And I thought that was an interesting tact. Um, what did you think? What did you think about like her involvement with the organization Principal Voices, and what do you think that indicates in broader terms of like as far as the family is concerned? Like when they talk about introducing sister wives as a program to let
Mm-hmm.
America know about polygamy.
Yeah. Well, it goes definitely in line with her explaining how she always felt about it growing up. I just want it to be out there, right? So she gets to be one of the 2 representatives of the AUB. And I just want to step aside and say, surprised the Kingstons were in there.
Right.
But it said every sect except for FLDS was represented in this board that did things. And she was often chosen when media would come to him. So for the whole fundamentalist group, whenever media wanted to do an interview or anything, they went to this board. Everybody just directed them to the board called Principal Voices, of which there's 2 representatives from every one of the different denominations. And then they decided, who would do it or if they would do it and, if they're going to turn it down or what it looked like. And it appeared that Christine, because of her kind of outgoing, bubbly personality, was often chosen. And that when it wasn't a documentary, but when a show, it was kind of like a pilot that was never going to be aired, was chosen to be done about a family again. They had a family that didn't have any scandalous background and looked like a normal family from the outside looking in, and everybody was happy and the kids were successful and doing well in school. And so their family was chosen for that. Christine is the reason there is a Sister Wives show. Christine is the reason Cody has $2 in his pocket. He would have nothing if it weren't for her and what she's done here. I find it very interesting to listen to Cody's explanation of how the show came to be, and even Mary's explanation of how the show came to be, and then Christine's, who's actually lived it. According to Cody, he had a producer approach him about it, say he wanted to do a documentary, and Cody said, and this is from the Mormonism Live interview, Cody said, no, we're not going to do a documentary because there's no way you're really going to be able to get our whole family. Right. You need to do a weekly show, and then that's what we'll do it. So he made it sound like that was the one conversation. And then Mary's perspective was just Cody and I did this and Cody and I did this, kind of like they were the ones that sort of found the whole situation, the arrangement of it. There really wasn't and then we, and I waited until I decided I was ready. And she didn't say just the two of them did it. She just never addressed any other wife. She never addressed principal voices. She never addressed that it came in any other way. She just said, Cody mentioned that there was this thing that was going to come to us, this opportunity. And I needed time to think about it. And eventually when I worked through my thoughts, then we decided, it was, good to go forward. So she was careful about not lying, but there was a lot of error of omissions in her chapter when talking about this. And then Christine comes right out and explains, yes, I've done lots of this. I've done extensive media training. I've learned how to answer questions without answering a question, which we saw. And then she obviously taught the rest of her family members. I learned how to redirect a question when they're trying to make it salacious and bring it back to family and our family unit. And then she didn't even mention everything in here. There was the whole HBO series. She didn't even mention that. So there were all these opportunities where Christine was going out and being on panels and answering questions, and eventually got the family involved in this documentary whatever it was, this pilot in New York, just the older kids and the parents at that point again. And then a documentary was approached. They decided, no, it's not really for our family. And time went on after that. And time goes on after that documentary. Cody's like, I think we really need to come out to the world. I'm thinking he's thinking, we got paid to do that other thing. Shoot, this is my billboard selling skills is not so great. So this seems to be an easy way to make money. That's how I interpret it. But according to Christine, he saw the light and thought, I want to share with other people as well. And actually seemed shocked. And my interpretation of it from the book is that she was actually disappointed. Or he was actually disappointed in Christine when he found out that other opportunities had been coming to her about their family doing stuff. And she didn't let Cody know about any of the other ones because she just assumed, well, we didn't want to do the documentary. We didn't think that that was right, that they would get a full understanding. And I don't think that the other wives would be on board with it anyway. So she just didn't address it. And he's like, the next time, I could just see him, the next time anything comes your way, you let me know. Right. And so that's really how it went down. It wasn't this one conversation with Cody where they were like, we'd like to do a documentary with you. No, that's not enough. I demand this on a network television show. Okay, Cody. Right. Such a different perspective. But I found it interesting. I can see why Christine would be somebody that they would want to cover. Christine talks a lot. She's interesting to look at. She's smiley. She's bubbly. She would film well on television. And she really presents a whole different persona than what we're seeing with Warren Jeffs on television. So I can see how people would be interested in her and her family. I just found the whole thing interesting, how vitally important she was in this whole becoming of sister wives. And I bow my head to her that she hasn't been banging that drum all this time. There wouldn't be without me a show. Like, she could easily take that. If it were Robin would be mentioning it in every single interview. Well, again, I just want to reiterate, they should be grateful for me, because if it wasn't for me, there wouldn't even be a Sister Wives, which could be true. Right. Because she really brings the drama. But just in terms of how it all started and how it came to be initially, had Christine not been involved with Principal Voices, none of this would be. Right.
Well, I wanted to unpack some points that you had made, because these are some of the things that I was thinking about. Like, the first thing with regard to Cody being the one from his description and on Mormonism Live, I was just hanging out and they wanted to do a documentary. And I was like, no, we need to film a larger show. And if we're not going to do the larger show, we're not interested. First of all, nobody like you aren't the Kardashians.
Right.
You can't make that kind of demand to anybody. Like I can't go to TLC tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, this is the show that you're going to film about me. TLC, who are you and why are you calling me and who gave you this number? Because they're now fired.
Yeah.
Like that's how that conversation would go. That's the first part. The second part, one of the things that's really struck me with regard to the voices, principal voices, and this is part of what I was saying earlier with regard to the real estate opportunity, as well as the sister wives closet opportunity. And even like getting into the church, taking a church over and becoming a church leader. This is one of the points that I wanted to make. And this actually, for me, kind of supports this notion. Cody, let me start back. Christine, the foundation portion. Christine was doing the legwork. Week to week, meeting to meeting. She went to she got involved with this organization, Principal Voices. She would show up to the meeting when there wasn't glory, when there weren't cameras, when they were just having the meetings. They were probably sitting somewhere drinking, well, probably not drinking stale coffee because they don't drink coffee, but old tea or cold tea when they should be drinking hot tea. You know, sitting around eating stale donuts. They were the ones sitting around doing the legwork to create the opportunities. And once the opportunities started coming in, no, you're fine. Once the opportunities started coming in, then all of a sudden Cody wanted to get involved. When you talk about like him saying, whoa, if all these opportunities are coming in, I look at what was happening at the time. At the time, the big show on HBO wasn't the documentaries about polygamy. It was the show Big Love. And so when Cody was looking at this, in my mind, in my imagination, in my machinations, and me putting this together, no evidence, no proof, just my supposition. I think that when he was looking at it, he was saying, you know, I have the opportunity to be the real life Big Love guy. People love Bill Paxton in this role. They feel like it's an interesting thing to watch. I could be the real life version of this imaginary guy that so many people find interesting on HBO. And I could be the gateway and the face of polygamy. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. And there's a lot of opportunity. And as you had mentioned earlier, it could be very lucrative if you become the gatekeeper for what polygamy looks like and what polygamy is. You become that guy. And in some respects, there are some religions where you have individuals who are the head of the religion, and then you have maybe somebody who's a dynamic or charismatic speaker, and they come out and they start to do their thing. This happens in organizations too. You had a person who puts the organization together, and you had a person who talks really well, and he's just friendly, and he has this personality, or she has this personality, draws people in, and then people will start to look at that person as the leader of said organization, rather than the person who started it, did all the legwork, put everything together, you know, doing the hymnals and everything. They don't get a lot of the recognition. It's the person, they recognize the person that they, you know, I come to see this person preach. I didn't come to see, you know, the guy who the pastor of the church or the deacon of the church or the head of the church. I come to hear this guy preach. So his services are always packed out. His masses are always packed out. The church, he might have like 3 or 4 people sitting there, some of the older committed folks, but the other guy is pulling in new people. And Cody wanted to be that guy. And I think that there's a point where when I read that, like he went to Christine and basically the way she wrote it is that he was yelling at her like, how come you didn't tell me that people are asking about these TV shows? You should have brought that to me. Well, why would Christine bring it to somebody if you're not, especially if you don't show any interest in exposing or presenting this to people? You weren't coming to the Principal Voices meetings. You didn't say at all that this is something you want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I could see Cody also having zero interest in her sharing what it was like. 'Cause she'd go to a meeting and come back and go like, oh, we decided that, and that he would be zoned out and on his phone the whole time. I'm sure he expressed absolutely no interest in getting any of this out until the money and the fame and the
Right.
television popularity started to come along with it. Yeah.
Until they started talking about, oh yeah, we could put you on TV. Wait, hold up, what was that?
Excuse me?
And there will be checks issued. What are you talking? What? Hold up.
Is this on? Wait.
All right.
Can you say that again?
But then all of a sudden, and again, this is one of those stages where I think Cody tries to take the, more of the, I directed it. I'm the one who spoke to the people who are involved, and I'm the one that did the negotiations as far as the contracts were concerned, and which always gives me pause. If it's not your wheelhouse to do these negotiations and these contracts, don't do these negotiations and contracts.
Yeah.
Because you will get screwed every time. Like there isn't a time that you won't. You might still get screwed with a lawyer, a manager, and an agent. You still might get screwed. But if you do it yourself, you're definitely getting screwed. And Cody doing it himself, I think that ultimately they got screwed because they don't have anything on the back end. They don't have anything with regard to the what the heck? Do you hear that? Oh, they don't. Oh, okay. They don't have anything with regard to like any type of royalty. They don't have anything with regard to like at least be listed as a producer on the show, something. They don't have any of those credits, nothing. And they just basically gave him a one-time payment, and they had him working, doing back-to-back interviews. They working them like dogs, but he wasn't getting paid because again, he didn't put you. You can't shortchange the system. You have to do the work. It's all about, it's not just about the opportunity. It's about preparation for the opportunity. That's what I tell my kids all the time. That's when you see somebody, you say, it's luck. Story time. You say, that person is lucky. No, all luck is just preparation meets opportunity. So if you do the back work, if you do the work like you're going to get the opportunity, when the opportunity presents itself, you're prepared for the opportunity when it makes itself available. But if you don't do any of the back work and you just think you're going to walk in there out of your natural talent, there's a lot of people who are very talented folks who are washing cars. Like, you know what I mean? Like you just can't do it that way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, so when I read that, I definitely thought that Cody was pushing. Like this is where it really spoke to me because again, this is just another reminder of how he kind of does things. So when it came time, like he wasn't interested in the hard work. So it's kind of like the real estate. He wasn't interested in getting his real estate license. He wasn't interested in learning about how real estate is done. But when it comes to Cowdy Pass, there's an episode where he comes in and he tells them, yeah, I just got back from the lawyer and they said that we shouldn't even try to live on Cowdy Pass. We should just rent it out because we'll make a mint. And and Chris and Janelle sitting there like, I want to build a house. What are you talking about? And he's saying like, we're just going to use it as investment properties, y'all. Like, so he wanted to be a mogul. You know what I mean? But he doesn't want to understand how the market works.
Right. Yeah. Clueless.
Yeah.
Clueless. And you know what? That came true in terms of contracts, probably all the way to season 18. I think he was a bad negotiator with contracts because it appeared to me we never had those 4 talkbacks and look backs that, like all those extra episodes, they were kind of like cash cow, keep it coming. And the way they could do that is they probably just had an open-ended contract of like, however many episodes we need to put in, this is how much you get for the season. Right. And they were just kind of going like, here's more, with the exception of Christine, who I heard negotiated well and got money as well as a lot of stuff paid for her wedding to have them come and film that for her. But I believe that's also why Robin had such a sourpuss face on when she had to sit through those things and watch them, that she said no and they said, breach of contract. So yeah, you will. You'll sit there. And so she's kind of like, fine, I'll sit there, but I'm not saying a word. And she basically didn't. She'd say something snarky here and there. And basically Cody was the only one that answered. I'm like, oh, the tension in that house that day. I'm telling you. Or maybe she was just in such a bad mood because she had to clean her kitchen. in order to do. Like, we have to do it in your house. We are not doing this at the fire pit.
Right.
Everybody is looking at their televisions. You have to look at a television, any television you want, but pick a television. It's like, well, all the rest of the rooms are in worse condition, so let's clean this one up. Maybe like her and the whole family were on the outs. The nanny picked up and left. I have a whole storyline going in my head how this date went. So she's like, I've lost my nanny and my kids all hate me and Cody's a jerk and I didn't know about any of this. I don't want to do it. But her kitchen looked clean for the first time in Sister Wives history, so she should be happy afterwards. Boy, I just saw an episode this week from when they were in the when they were in the rentals. I think it was rentals in Vegas, those rentals, when it was it was the Vegas rentals. And the kids at Christmas time, our kids were going, it was the year that they got to see the father. So obviously it was an every other year thing for Christmas with her kid's father. So she went in there and told them that they had to like start getting, she was really upset with, she was really upset with her oldest daughter. Wait, what's her oldest daughter's name? It's escaping me right now.
Aurora.
Aurora. Yes. She was really upset with Aurora because Aurora was sitting there playing with Solomon, who looked like he was all of 18 months old. She's bouncing with him and all that. And she's like, I told you not to play. You're supposed to be packing. And I'm like, who's supposed to be watching Solomon? He's 18 months old. She's obviously watching the baby. So she came in there and she was all upset. And you're supposed to be packing. You're supposed to be getting ready to go. But walking into that room, oh my goodness. It was like your house looks when you're moving or you just moved, just like random stuff. I don't know if we're going to take this or not. And there were boxes. It looked like it was just a move, but it wasn't when just a move was about to happen or had happened. And I just thought, wow, all the way back then, that's when it started. It was right from the get-go. No wonder you can never go. To the point that I also was watching the episode with, I should actually do a video on this because I've been very hard on Nancy because my recollection of Nancy's therapy skills is horrible. But I rewatched it again and I'm like, okay, she had some good points in there. Not everything. Some of the exercises I still think are as hokey could be. And I still stand by that. And those are the ones that stuck in my head. Like, oh, I would just die if I had to go through these. Like, let's set these rocks up as if they're our family. Like, oh, okay. No. But there were other good things. So like, I feel like I need to do a deep dive on Nancy and do a Nancy apology video and point out, okay, these things I still stand by, ridiculous. But here are some good points that she had and some good things she did do. So anyway, I'm watching through that in the Sedona episode with them. And Nancy goes into each of the wives' rooms at the end of the first night or second night. I think it was the first night. And so she really tries to get them one-on-one. Like, what do you feel is the problem with the family? Where are you coming from? Which I thought was really good. It was really nice to hear her just one-on-one with each of them because sometimes in that family dynamic, truth doesn't always come out. But, Robin was sitting on the patio outside her hotel room when she gave her interview. All of them, they showed, and this is how they showed Nancy knocking on the door and entering it, going, hello, and like making comments like, oh, I like your room, and, just random things.
Right.
And there were even like, a pile of clothes here. There might be a pole. Somebody had I don't look like a mop pole, but I don't know why it would be a mop. Some pole was behind. Like, it's not like everyone had pristine rooms. To me, and I kept thinking like, here's another video. But to me, it showed the transparency of all the wives except for Robin. Like, yeah, this is me. This is my life. This is my room. It's fine. So it makes me wonder just what a disaster Robin's room probably did look like. Because I really do think this is the reason. I don't think it was the COVID thing, because that was back in Sedona. That was at the beginning of their thing. Like, she was the only one that didn't have the knock on the door, walk into the room kind of entrance thing. Why would all of a sudden they just break with the whole pattern that they had going with the wives and get to Robin and just cut to we're automatically sitting in chairs out on the back patio area outside her hotel room and we're talking. I'm like, so interesting. So yeah, I think that is an absolute disgrace from day one until day whatever, which then makes me, so I'm going down, this is rabbit hole stuff. So then makes me, or tangential speech, however you want to look at it, that makes me start to think then about what is Cody thinking and feeling now that he has just Robin's house to live in? Because we see through the windows it's a disaster. We see at Christmas time that it's a disaster. We see that she likes clutter for whatever reason. And maybe there's a psychological reason behind all of that. I don't know. But the point being, the manifestation of it is junk and clutter and a mess everywhere. And that she doesn't feel the need to pick any of it up. Instead, no cameras allowed to film any of this stuff in here. Cody always liked Mary's place the best when it was back at Lehigh because she was the most organized and tidy and neat. And we also know that Christine came out and said, when Cody comes over, there's a little bit of anxiety beforehand because everything has to be put in place. Everything has the right place that Cody likes it to be. The house has to be cleaned. Everything needs to be where he knows everything is going to be. Food has to be cooked a certain way. There's like rules and requirements, and there's a higher level of angst when he's coming over because she wants to make sure everything is perfect because he's not there that often, and that's how he likes it. So it appears that he's let his curls down when it comes to Robin. And I'm wondering how much he's regretting that right now. Because if that's not an environment that you're comfortable in, it's only so long before you start to go crazy, which might be the crazy Cody that we're seeing now. Him being forced to be in Robin's house all this time. I don't know.
Well, because I think that with like with regard to Robin's house, I think that there's a when Cody loses, or I won't even use Cody. When anytime somebody like Cody in his situation starts losing people, he didn't just have access to those individuals. He also had access to their houses. So when Cody started losing access to, say, Janelle, Mary, or Christine, he also lost access to square footage. So he went from living in, like, essentially, if each one of those women had, say, 2,500 square feet, then he was looking at having a 10,000 square foot living area. It's just spread out into 4 different locations. And when wives start peeling off, if anything, if he's faced with anything, because here's kind of the secret to the sauce. If Robin lives in clutter, Cody lives in clutter. Because he lives there too. And if he was that pressed about keeping a clean house, then the house would be clean. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Just real talk. Like, it's not all on Robin, you know.
Yeah.
He lives there too. He can pick up a box. He can pick up a mop. He can pick up a broom. He can wipe a counter down. Like, you live there too, Playboy. So
yeah, he doesn't have to do that in any of the other houses.
Right. If the house is dusty, it's on you. If you hungry, as he said, you know, just because I like you to make my breakfast don't mean I can't make my own. If you like a clean house, then you're going to clean your house. Like, if you are the kind of person who, like, I had a roommate in college. He was just kind of all over the place. And there would come times where I would walk in and I would just start picking stuff up, folding clothes, or you know what I mean, putting it on his side of the room, just because I didn't want the space to be jacked up, especially if I got my people showing up. I don't want them thinking I live like that. So it's just, if that's who you are, that's who you are. And if the house is dusty and dirty and Robin is living there, you know, that's how Cody liked it. But I think that he also likes having these cleaner places where it's on auto clean. So he goes over to Christine's house, he gets some delicious food. He go over to Robin's house, that, you know, get some other stuff. He go over to Mary's house, the house is clean the way he like it. You know what I mean? So you get a little bit of everything that you like in these different places. And as he's losing these wives, he's also losing access to these the square footage of these homes and the
Mhm.
amenities that come along with those homes. So,
Mhm.
if he likes how, like, just as an example, if he likes how Christine cooks, then when he loses that wife, he also loses access to those meals.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
That's
And
why
I think
some
that hurts
people have
too.
said he's lost so much weight in
Right.
season 17 and 18 because
Yeah.
Christine left and Robin can't cook.
He was eating good. Like over at
Yep.
Christine's house, he was eating good, complaining, but
Mhm.
he was eating good. And
Mhm.
like even with the therapist, I think Robin might have kicked the therapist out. The reason why it was such a difference was because from what I remember of that therapy session, that entire therapy session, especially
Mhm.
when they went away to like wherever, I forget where they went. But Robin had made it a point to disassociate herself from anything that Nancy was trying to talk about. Like
Mm.
so much so that she missed the second day because she supposedly had a headache and
Yeah.
she couldn't participate. If you
Yeah.
remember, like she
It's
just wasn't
ridiculous.
trying to do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That was insane.
Yeah.
That was absolutely insane. Um, I think
But
that's a Robin MO because we saw that one other time. I'm trying to think what it was, but it's not coming back to me. There was another situation where everybody got together and Robin mysteriously was not able to go because she had a headache or she wasn't feeling well or something along that line. And she got out of something else
yeah.
for that. And I remember thinking, that's not true. She just doesn't want to do whatever this thing was. I just can't remember what it was. But yeah, that seems to be her MO. Yeah, she didn't like that there. Neither one of them, her, Cody or Robin, were into it at all. In fact, Cody went into it saying, I'm not really interested in this new therapist because she's going to tell me that I have to change, as
Right.
opposed to the rest of my wives, that they're not going to have anything to do and I'm going to have to be the one to change. I'm like, if you're going into it that defensive, there's probably a reason, Cody. We need to do some
Right.
self-reflection. It appears that you might just need to be in that particular spot. And when the therapist, when Nancy, this is what I was talking about, when Nancy called him out, he was just like shocked. And then Robin comes running to his defense. No, that's not how he is. I'm like, whoa, these two are two peas in a pod.
Right.
Just like he comes running after Robin and her defense, and he will defend her she's doing the exact same thing for him. She's not even letting a licensed therapist tell him what he needs to do to improve himself. She's instantly saying, no, he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that. Yeah, they are two peas in a pod, and neither one of them appeared to enjoy any of it. I am shocked that they kept Nancy later on and we're continuing to see her in later episodes.
Yeah. I think that was a show though.
You
Like
think so?
I think that was a show because I don't think any because the way they have it done first, like anytime you're doing any type of therapy like that, you really can't do, especially because of HIPAA laws, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. You really can't do it on TV. It's
Yeah.
ineffective, and a lot of the things that you're going to talk about will only be sensationalized, which doesn't go a long way towards getting close to any of the real issues or problems within these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like, all in all, one of the things that really strikes me, even with regard to the relationship with Nancy or the therapist, or like we talked about principal voices and getting involved with putting the word out about polygamy, or
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the real estate or sister wives closet. All these things have one common thing, as I say to my kids all the time, as it was told to me when I was a young man, how you do one thing is how you do all things.
Mm-hmm.
When they talk about any of these principles, when they talk about the therapist, I want to have a good relationship with my sister wives. I want there to be a big family. I want us to be one united family. I want to see the big picture. But when you're sitting in the room with the therapist and you have to do the work in order to get the thing that you say you want,
Mm-hmm.
you're unwilling to do the work. So therefore, you having the thing that you say you want isn't as important as you just sitting there saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly this isn't something that you strive for or you actually want to achieve. Because
Mm-hmm.
if there's an opportunity, like, they're talking about when they went to, was that Bravo place? the brown breakup locale where they go to the restaurant, the Mexican restaurant. They got a brown family breaking up at table 3. Get them some water because they break it up again. Like when they were doing that, and Cody met up with Christine, what was one of the things they said? Well, I'm willing to do couples therapy. What? Our relationship is over. Couples therapy. That's like calling the fire department after their house burnt down. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
Couples therapy. But yeah, we need to do couples therapy. Then Robinson said, yeah, we need to do couples therapy. Like you said, you had all kinds of opportunities to do couples therapy, and you guys could have went and saw the therapist by yourselves together without Cody. If you were worried about working on that relationship, but yet you failed to do so because you're not interested in doing the hard work that's required for you to achieve the outcomes and the goals that you say you want. Right. And I think that that's one of the things that I find inconsistent about the whole thing.
That's their whole lives. Just everything. I mean, if I had $1 for every time Robin said, but this is what I really want, this is what I want in my relationship with my sister wives, but don't put any work in to achieve that. This is what I want for the business. I want it to, she specifically said, I want this to be the business that's going to pay for all the kids to go to college.
Right.
It's hysterical to think about now. Okay, great goal, horrible plan, horrible name for the business, horrible, there's everything, horrible item, horrible designs, horrible mark, everything was wrong in the whole plan of it all. But she just thought she could put a couple things together and just do it. Like, there's no background research. She didn't put in the work to do it. And then she'd show up at these meetings and just talk about, well, I'm working all day, but there's nothing to show for it. You see that that Janelle is like, I can't put any more of this time into this business. I can't keep doing the books and all the paperwork and everything for it because I've got to start the real estate because we have to pay for the mortgages. And so this is fine. Keep doing it, but you can't rely on me anymore. And you could tell that she was kind of like freaking out that, so I was like, well, how much time has Janelle been putting in crunching numbers and doing all this, contracts and all that? Apparently Janelle was also designing aprons to put on the website. She had all the wives designing everything. All she did was a couple pieces of ugly jewelry, but yet she wants it. This is her business anyway. Never is the work put in. Same thing with therapy. They go to therapy. They don't want to put the work in to do anything for therapy. It's just all their like we said before with Cody, right from the get-go, across the board in their whole lives. They just don't want to put the work in. She wants these great kids, but she'll hire the nanny.
Right.
Put the work in to actually raise them.
I want to do 4 speeches a month, and then
the
4 big speeches that'll shape them. Because even with the the business, I don't know anything about the jewelry business or industry. So if I wanted to come out with jewelry, it would make sense to me to try to link up with somebody who knows about how this business runs, knows about how the over under happens with as far as materials, how to set up with the designer, what type of designer I should look for, what type of jewelry should I first start putting out, in order for me to get my business started. You can't start out with precious metals and intricate designs as your first pieces because you don't have a name. And part of it too is just people just don't recognize you as that thing. So if I came out with a sweatsuit, and my sweatsuit is going to hang next to Nike and Puma and everybody else, I got to have something to make people want to have that thing. So it's the legwork part of it. And so even with Janelle, I just want you to show up and do the thing and make it successful, because all we have to do is keep showing up. That in itself is a lot of stuff I say to my kids, but that's also what I say to my kids. Don't ever confuse activity with accomplishment.
Yes.
You doing a whole bunch of stuff doesn't mean you're doing anything. You're just running around. You can run on the treadmill for 10 miles, but you haven't gone anywhere. What are you talking about?
Right.
It's activity. It's not accomplishment.
Absolutely. I started collecting clips over the weekend of this whole kind of sister wives closet journey. And it's so amazing how many times Robin just uses I statements, because normally she never uses I statements. It's always we, because they're always talking about the problems in the family. We, when she's involved in something, she never say I. But when it came to what she wants with this, I just want this to be something that this, well, you can want all you want.
Right.
Like, I know what you want, and you keep saying what you want. It's frustrating to go back and watch it too, because you can even see Cody completely confused, and Cody's brain is just spaghetti. So for him to look at her and go, I don't understand what you want me to do, and she just came back with, I need you to support me.
Right.
Me.
Oh, what it meant was,
okay.
I can tell you what it meant. What it meant was, I need you to tell them to get in line and start doing what I need them to do. Because she didn't want Cody necessarily involved. She just wanted Cody as the figurehead to start telling the other wives what to do, because she didn't feel she had the power or authority to tell the other wives to get in line.
Yeah.
Because if she did, she would have told them, get your asses in line. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that was when Janelle was talking about it being a hobby business. And Cody, and what makes it even more messed up, Janelle was, I don't know, I can't say who said it first, but I know I heard Cody call Sister Wives Closet a hobby business. And it was presented to the audience as him saying it first. She may have said it to him like in the cut, the two of them talking, and he just brought it to the meeting. But he even referred to it as a hobby business. In fact, he talked about it being a hobby business up to the point where they started asking for that big time money, like the $20 million or whatever, $2.5 million that they wanted to get out of that investment group. That's when he started getting involved, when it was like, it was time to get that big money.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, he wasn't doing any of the legwork. He wasn't concerned about designing any of the jewelry. He wasn't concerned about being involved with any of the business up until the point that they started talking about that $2.5 million infusion of cash that was going to come in from the capital investors. And then at that point, when he said $2 million, who's going to be in charge of $2 million? I need to be the CEO. And that's when he started yelling at him at the therapy session about how, when did I ever get to make decisions without having to run it past you guys?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was in there.
Yeah. There's clearly a pattern with their behaviors that we can see going back now, right from the beginning, that carried through all the way through a bunch of little things that I never really noticed the first time going through, because I'm just not thinking much of it, kind of watching it on the fly. And oh yeah, that's a nice little story. Boy, he's a jerk, and I don't like Robin. And that's pretty much all it was. And the next week, well, let's watch the next episode. Yeah, he's still a jerk, and I still don't like Robin.
Yeah. Well, by the time I got it, when I first heard about it, I didn't watch it when it first came out. But when I first heard about it, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to go badly. And then as I started learning about it, I was like, he got himself a young wife, and he has 3 wives. And I look at, like, I think I saw like maybe part of like a couple of episodes here and there, him running back and forth to the houses or whatever. I was like, yeah, this is going to end terribly. This is going to end terribly. Like this, there's no way this works out well. And lo and behold, like by the time I started watching, season 16 is when I really started watching episode to episode. And by that time, that's when Christine pretty much said, I'm out. And she packed this stuff up and put it in the garage. So I just came in right in time to see him get kicked out.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's when the whole thing started getting good, season 16.
Yeah, the whole house of cards started burning down.
Yeah.
I tuned in just in time for that.
Yes.
Well, what did you think about like the because again, they had the like, this is actually one of the last things I had as far as the chapter was concerned. But 241, they would start talking about like they brought up the Brown family versus Warren Jeffs. And one of the things that has always kind of chapped me about the whole presentation of that is, well, I won't read the thing, but it's always been the idea that part of the reason why we have to come out with Sister Wives is because we want to show the world that we're not like the FLDS. We're not part of Warren Jeff's group. We're different.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is that within a lot of these sects, these polygamous sects or fundamentalist sects, there's a lot of evil to go around. And it's not just Warren Jeffs. And I think that in itself is a disservice for them to say that it's just simply limited to the FLDS, especially because those were the ones who got caught. And those are the ones who are making national news. And for you to try to hide back, folks, it to some degree, especially when you're saying that this is a great lifestyle and it's a wonderful lifestyle, you just have to avoid those people. Meanwhile, you're essentially covering for other people who may be doing the wrong thing. So I think that to a degree that makes you, part of the problem.
And she had to have known about them because all the other groups, including the Kingstons, were involved in that. So when they showed up for their meetings, their board meetings each month for principal voices, she saw the ones that showed up in the prairie dresses and hair. She saw the other sects that were as conservative as the FLDS was, because they were all involved in it. So she couldn't. It's a little frustrating to watch the show in general, too, especially when you get to the episode where the teenagers get together and they go to work on that one house to help through that organization that helps kids escape and gives them a place to go, or women to escape and gives them a place to go. Right. And that Colleen girl, I remember watching her on Escaping Polygamy on that show. She was a featured person who escaped during that show and kind of watched her journey through it. So I was surprised that Christine acted like she kept saying, I just didn't know you guys were I didn't know. I wish I would have known. I didn't know. I'm like, well, I watched it on TV. Like, we saw everything that was happening with the Kingstons. Yes, it wasn't FLDS. It wasn't complete, but they still had to escape and get away. And yes, some of them were living a little bit more kind of in the city than FLDS was, but still not to the same. There were so many rules and regulations and everything. And then if you watch that television show, you were like, oh my goodness, like, it was really hard for them to get out, and they didn't have any support when they did get out, and they were completely cut off after they did from their family. And that's a scary thing for anyone to go through when you have no support on the other side. So I found it interesting in the show. Now, that was probably, I don't remember what season that was when the kids did that and they went and met with her.
It was either season 6, somewhere between 6 and 8.
Somewhere between 6 and 8. Okay. So on a little bit. And I just remember watching it because she has such a recognizable face, such distinguished hair and makeup and everything, and her name was, I believe it was Colleen. And so it was very distinct too.
Colleen Snow was her name.
Yeah. So I found it interesting that I wonder how much is Christine putting her head in the sand or just looking the other way and pretending like FLDS is the bad guys. Everything else is okay because she knew people from them. Of course, the people who were sent there were probably sent by the head leaders and were instructed on what to say and what not to say when you get together with these other sects, to make sure that things that we want to keep on the down low stay on the down low. That, to preserve our faith, you need to present it this way when they went there. But I mean, you can read through that really quick, especially when you're involved in all of it. So the whole thing was crazy to me between the show and then also the book here. Like, we are not like FLDS. We are not like Warren Jeffs. Like, okay, agree. Right. But what about all the rest that are doing things wrong and having underage brides and all of these multiple women that don't want to marry and forced marriages, and it's happening other places. And so, yeah, I found it a little disingenuous that she kind of just dismissed it. Like, we're just not FLDS. So I just want to prove that. And then again on the show, her going, I had no idea. I remember
Yeah,
watching it going, how'd you have no idea? She just had her own show.
right. You didn't know. Right. Well, let me give a shout out to Brittany, not Brittany. Brittany.
Brittany.
4.99 super chat. Christine on talks about the abuse that came out. Wait, hold on one second. Talks about the abuse that came out to have happened in the AUB in her own books, so she had to have known, and I 100% agree with that. But I 100% agree with that, and I think that that's part of the problem is that when thank you so much, Brittany. That was season 5, actually. It was season 5, episode 4, Polygamous Cults, for Sister Wives when Colleen made her first appearance. So it was early on. And one of the problems that, like you were saying, like I've been in a lot of different things growing up. And I can tell you now, even some sports things and things of that nature where I would travel around like to different parts of the country. And the funny thing is that even in a national organization, national sports organization, whatever that I was in, and I would go to tournaments and competitions and things for it. When you're a part of that, as big as the organizations are, you start to know various people, you know, various organizations, you know about those organizations, you know who you talk to, who you don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea that so much of your life and lifestyle is tied up into this, so much of who you are is tied up into this religious organization, and yet you have no idea about any of the other sects and anything that's going on other than what's happening in the AUB. And as Brittany talked about, there were abuses that were occurring in the AUB. There, and this is where I think that it becomes disingenuous. And I think so much of the hard work that they put in as far as trying to uh, hold polygamy out as a normalized thing, and we just want the truth to come out. If you want the truth to come out, you have to tell the whole truth, the ugly truth. You have to tell the parts about, yeah, there's stuff that happens and people are doing the wrong thing. And part of the reason why it's important for us to come out and let it be known is because, one, we disagree with this vehemently, this behavior vehemently, we oppose it. Two, we want to make sure that people know about them so that those people can be prosecuted because we're not a part of that.
Yeah.
But when you go about the business of covering for people who are doing this and taking a lot, like, because the truth of the matter is, if you watch Sister Wives, and I have a belief that I see Warren Jeffs on TV, and I think that Warren Jeffs is evil, you know, some of us so-and-so, and he's a terrible person, and then you come out and say, oh, that's just Warren Jeffs and his group. The rest of us polygamists are just like you. We just have alternate lifestyles. So then when the contact group I get in touch with are the Kingstons, well, maybe not, they probably won't let me in. But if you contacted the Kingstons, you know what I mean? Right? They won't let me in my people's in. But if you contacted the Kingstons and say, hey, I got 2 daughters and me and my husband talking about, you know, finding out about this religion, then they would invite you with open arms, and you would be getting into something that you don't want to be a part of. You think you joining Sister Wives, you joining Fright Night, you know. So they're not doing any favors. I didn't think that they were really doing any favors, because this is one of those things. If I know about it and I'm just doing cursory searches on Google and I find out about it, I'm sure you knew about it if you live in a community.
Yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Absolutely. Completely agree. That's where it gets frustrating again. That's where I want to just go, ugh. The lies in this family.
Right. You're not helping. Like, this is one of them things where you're not helping, because we will find out. It will come to light, and when it does come to light, it just makes it look that much more. It makes it look that much worse. It makes it look that much more shady.
Yeah.
Because especially with when Colleen came out, one of the things that really struck me was that when Colleen came out, it was, oh, I can't believe it. These people, I didn't know that they had such bastards who are doing this to these children. And it was
Yep.
horrible. And then the next time we see Colleen is when they were on that panel. And when Colleen was sitting there trying to talk about her experiences with polygamy, the Brown family collectively called her a liar and told her to shut up because it's not representative of polygamy. It's just her bad experiences.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I think that I wasn't a big fan of that episode.
That was a really bad look on all of them. I don't think that went well for really the Browns in general on that panel.
Right.
I think they looked defensive. Robin extremely defensive, yelling at the girl. Like, I mean, it was not a good look at the very end whatsoever.
Yeah, that would be season 6, episode 9, Sister Wives on the Ropes is the episode. If you guys are curious, if you want the reference.
And I feel like Christine's aunt really was articulate on there, and I think she was compassionate when she was there. I think she presented herself really well. Colleen herself, she's got an edge to herself.
Right.
You know, she's young. She went through a lot.
Right.
So she can't see the other side either. Just like they're not seeing what she went through. She can't see how it can't be that way. And she's convinced that, you know, like, so there's a little bit of that going back and forth, but she's a kid. And probably emotionally significantly younger than her chronological age as well, in terms of what she's been through and the traumas that she's seen and experienced through her life. So you give her a pass. But then for the sister wives to bounce back and react to her like that and come at her after, like you said, having we're sitting down and breaking bread and everything is good. Although at that meal afterwards, you could tell she didn't really say much of anything there. She was really, I think she was very suspect, understandably, that possibly that the kids of the sister wife family weren't completely telling the truth. And probably deep down inside, she thought, even if they are telling the truth, I don't like that cameras are here and showing that side of the story, because what I went through was traumatic. And I feel like my story is the one that really needs to get out there. And my people's story is the one that needs to get out there. Not victim, sweetie. That's it, Brittany, not Brittany. Yeah.
Right.
Call me victim, sweetie.
Right.
You call yourself a victim in every other episode.
Right. Don't call me a victim, sweetie. Yeah. Well, because I think they're
don't put words in my mouth.
Right. All of a sudden, it's us against them. But I think that this is one of those points where I think it was a political relations failure. And I say it that way because, as you mentioned, with Colleen's situation, she was a minor who was in a very volatile home life. She grew up in a very volatile home life. So her perspective of relationships and how the people whom she should have had the most faith and trust in, and the people who should have been looking out for her, weren't protecting her. In fact, if anything, they were helping to victimize her and place her in a situation where she could be victimized and mistreated. So as somebody who is in a more healthy, supposedly a more healthy relationship, wouldn't it have been a different perspective if they would have actually met her with open arms to say, look, I understand your situation and how that happened with you. Like, for instance, if I was sitting on a panel and we were talking about like parenting or whatever, like, you know, fathers and daughters, and there was a young lady who was mistreated by her dad or her stepfather, or her mom and her dad and her stepfather, whoever, and she has a long history of being mistreated in a certain kind of way. And she said, well, as far as I'm concerned, all men are trash. All men only want one thing. They don't care where they get it from. They don't care how old you are, what your situation is. They just going to try to get that one thing off you. It wouldn't do me any justice for one to lash out at her and start, girl, you don't know my business. You don't know me. Stop trying to say I'm doing stuff. Like, one, that'd be creepy as hell, because I actually would look like I'm doing
right.
You look like you're guilty of some shit. You start yelling at people about including you in the wrongdoing. Two, at some level, I understand that you feel like you're a victim, but understanding that your victimhood is a perception, her victimhood is actual. She was actually mistreated. You guys are afraid that people might look at you funny and not like you.
Yeah.
She has been in a situation where terrible things have happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so me being afraid that something might happen to me does in no way is comparable to somebody sitting there saying, in my history, this is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happened to me. Oh no, it didn't happen for you like that because my relationship is good. What are you talking about? And that's kind of where I was with that episode. Like, it just bothered the hell out. There was so many things about that episode that just bothered me.
Yeah.
That was also the episode where Cody came out and said, or Christine came out defending Cody, that if he says that there are no prisoners, if we don't want to be here, he said, that's fine. I will buy you a house, but you are not a prisoner. And then a couple seasons later, when she tries to leave, he was like, that's my house. I want all the money from your house. You're not going nowhere.
Yeah. I think part of what made it so horrible too is not only did poor Colleen experience everything she went through and it was horrible, and they're trying to claim themselves as victims, but here they are with this national television show, getting millions, living in gorgeous houses, having opportunities to, like, it's just the imbalance of it all. And they never went through anything she went through.
Right.
And yet they're touting a platform that's contradicting what she's saying and preventing her voice from getting out, because they had a bigger platform than anybody else talking about what polygamous life was like. I could see how very frustrating that had to have been for her and the aunt as well, although the aunt held it together.
Right. And the weird part is that they went after the aunt. Like, they tried to make her seem like she was the second coming, because like she was somehow being aggressive and nasty. But at the end of the day, what I saw was somebody who was compassionate towards other people's situations. And this is just merely the understanding, like, with this particular lifestyle. And I've always held that if you're going to get involved with this type of lifestyle, first and foremost, it takes a special kind of individual to actually even attempt this. I think that you have to be a special type of person. Like, and by special, I just mean built different, because I don't think most people are built for this type of relationship in general. And you have to find, not only do you have to be built that way, but your partners and the people you're involved with have to be built that way as well. And if you can find a group of people who can get together and have these healthy relationships, then just because you're able to do it, I don't think that it's responsible for you to pretend as though it's easy to do. Everybody could do that. Everybody can't do this. I don't care whether you want to try it or not. Not everybody can do this. You have to know yourself and what your limitations are. And I think that what Colleen and Christine's aunt were trying to say was, look, as great as they make polygamy seem, like I was saying earlier, you get married in this type of situation, there are 5 adults. You're not going to have 5 houses and two or three second homes that you guys are going to be debating about.
Right.
You guys are going to most likely have one house. If the relationship doesn't work out, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with your kids? If you have 15, if this guy has 30 children with 4 or 5 wives, how much child support, like he's going to get killed in child support, but how much child support are you legitly going to get out of this guy? Because they can only take but so much. They only take a percentage of the money that he actually makes. And of that money that he gets, are you going to be able to provide for your children? In most cases, and here's a quiet secret, just my perspective, but in a lot of cases, the money that's provided to folks, custodial parents, as far as child support is concerned, isn't really paying for the child in future. What you're doing is you're basically reimbursing the custodial parent for money that they already put out. So it's not that you're paying like this tremendous amount of money and they're living off this money, this cash cow that you provided to them. What it is You're giving them, say they have 2 kids with you, you pay them $500 a month. They're spending more than $500 a month to take care of those kids.
Right.
But you're giving them that reimbursement of that $500 as your kick in. But you're not taking care of the kids yourself remotely.
Right.
And I think that's some of the things that, some of those issues that have to be talked about as we talk about common sense legislation to be able to move this ball forward if we're going to open up, marriages and relationships to polygamy. Otherwise, like the sister wives, you're entering into these relationships. And that was actually one of the women. You're entering into these relationships without any protections. Because everybody on that stage, including Robin at that time, didn't have protections.
Right.
So if Cody decided he wasn't going to do it anymore, you just asked up.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Found it interesting too that Christine, who doesn't tend to be mean, ever is kind of not, her and Janelle don't really tend to kind of use that kind of voice. And she still used a really sweet voice. But when the aunt said, these are real things that happened to me and I was not treated well, and that Christine patronized her by going, well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but he wasn't a good man. She's like, you don't have to tell me that. I just told you what he did to me. Like for her to come at that angle of like, it all would have been fine if you just had a better picker.
Right.
That was your fault is basically what it boils down to in the end. Like, I just found that a real interesting response. Like, well, you know what? I'm sorry, but like, he just really wasn't a good man that you were married to.
Right.
What?
And that's also like the assumption that 99.9% of the men in that faith are good men. You just happen to pick the one lemon.
You got the bad egg. Yeah.
Right. So it's your fault because you just picked the wrong one.
Right.
But don't discourage other people from joining the faith. Like, I think that's a mistake. Like, it's, again, this is what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't, if somebody chooses to do this, I mean, that's their business. They can choose to do whatever they want to do. But this discussion, one of the things that I thought was a failing in this type of discussion was the idea. Like, part of me wishes I was on that panel. I really wish I was on that panel. But part of what I think was a disservice was, again, because they're covering for the misdeeds that occur in polygamy, you're not giving people the true scope of what actually happens. So therefore, they can't make an educated or informed decision as to whether this lifestyle is right for them. And I think that was a failing of this opportunity, because it wasn't supposed to be it really wasn't supposed to be a debate. They just came in hot, ready for a fight. So anything that Colleen and the aunt and the other young lady and the young man, I felt bad for the young man. Anything that they said, it was all going to be, no, you're trying to make us look bad. And that kind of goes to the effect of, if you are afraid that everything they say is going to make you look bad, then maybe you shouldn't be on the stage.
Yeah.
If it's going to hit you that close, or if I'm up here and they're talking about polygamy and they're saying polygamy is bad, then it's a bad reflection on me. Then maybe you're not a good example or a good person to be sitting on the stage, because we need to have the bigger conversation and not just about you guys.
That's right.
And even Colleen said that. She's like, I'm not talking about you guys.
Right.
And that's when Robin went at her and said, well, how are they supposed to know that? Because they're in the room listening to the conversation.
No. How dumb are you, Robin?
You act like they listened to it through the drywall. Like, catching every third word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're here.
There were two other things in this chapter that stuck out to me.
Okay.
One, I found it interesting that Christine made a point to say that the show, I'll read it verbatim for those who haven't read the book. So we're talking about, Christine was worried about how press was going to take the show and run with it. And she felt very comfortable in Tim Gibbons and as the producer and the direction he was going and how comforting he was, and said, we'll have a small crew. We won't be invasive. If there's a topic that you guys need to talk about and it ends up getting on camera, but you don't want it on the show, you let us know. We won't put it on. And so they felt very comfortable with it. They started doing the press tour and they were comfortable with the questions that came from Tim, but they didn't know like how people would take their answers and spin them and whatnot. She said, I had learned to trust that Tim and his staff would be honorable when they edited our footage. They didn't change what we said for dramatic effect, and they always conveyed the meaning of our confessions exactly as we wished. I find that interesting because I feel like Cody has spun the narrative so much now of you've only seen a few hours of our lives. We lived it. You're not getting the full picture. You're getting an edited vision from edited edition from TLC. It's not really how it is. And we're kind of like, we have seen hundreds of hours of your family's life. We've seen interviews you've done. We've seen, don't poo-poo the amount of time we've seen. Like, and yes, editing can tell a story, but they can't put the words in your mouth that are coming out of your mouth. So I found it very interesting for her to come right out and say they didn't change what we said for dramatic effect, and they always conveyed the meaning of our confessions exactly as we wished.
Well, of course she's going to say that because she's one of the show favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a dig at Robin right there. So just in case you don't like certain ones, that's exactly how it went down.
Right. That's how it was. But I can see that being Cody and Robin's response. But to that, again, this is where, because actually I'm doing a video this week. I'll probably release it in the next couple of days. Make sure you check out my Christine video. I put out Christine, the Secret Heroism. I'll post it in the background, but just release that. But I will be releasing a video talking about Cody and his change or shift throughout the series. And one of the things that I was going to talk about was actually that very point, was the idea or notion that somehow the editing staff decided to change the story. They decided to make a difference. Here's my challenge. And one of the things that I was actually going to talk about. If you got into this, and part of the reason why you started doing Sister Wives to begin with, according to Cody, according to Christine, and I think Christine, it was genuine. Cody, I think it was the money grab. But the reason you stated was because you wanted to educate the public as to what polygamy is about. You wanted to tell us that this is how it works, etc., etc., etc. And if that message was so important to you, if you are trying to present yourself in a positive manner and you feel as though Tim or TLC or whoever is editing you and making you look poorly, especially as a representative, because this is what you try to do, hold yourself out as a representative of polygamy. If you felt that they were making you as the representative of polygamy look bad, why did you continue to shoot the show? If you thought that they were giving you such horrible edits, why did you continue to shoot the show? If I was saying, oh, I want to shoot a show and I want to show the positives of 6'7" guys who walk the earth and how we're not evil, mean people, and we're good folks and we're good, kind-hearted people. We're more like teddy bears and grizzly bears, etc., etc., etc. But then I get hooked up with a show on TLC called the 6'5" Kid Kickers, and every episode you see 6'5" dude booting a child down some steps or kicking puppies or whatever, and all somehow the editing got messed up. But like you said, you filmed it. It's something you actually did. It's not like they put it together with AI. So you actually did it. But okay, fine. Somehow it was misconstrued that this is what happened. Then I would no longer shoot that show. If it goes against what the whole purpose of me getting on the show and the whole reason why I'm doing it, I would stop shooting the show. I don't want to make people in my situation look bad, especially if they don't have the platform, which is a huge thing. If they don't have the platform that I supposedly have as a person who's been on TLC for so long, most polygamists don't have your platform. So they can't sustain bad press. They can't sustain somebody getting up and presenting their situation incorrectly. So you're not doing them a service by doing it that way.
Yep. I'm just going to keep that highlighted so I have it the next time Cody says something. Let me read to you what Christine said. And now, in all fairness, I will say that there is a chance that TLC started off with a more favorable edit at the beginning and then got so fed up with parts of the Brown family that eventually just sort of said, like, we're just going to show it like it is now. Enough of this. Because early on, you'll see things in talks of favorable edits. There was a time I was going to put a video together about this. I was just trying to think what to go along with it. But maybe, actually, since I'm going to do the whole Nancy thing, I'll probably stick it inside that Nancy video. But it like struck me when I was watching it that I can't think of the name. What was the name of the first therapist that they had back in Lehigh? Well, they had a...
I know who you're talking about. The brown-haired lady with the brown.
Yeah. The short curly hair, brown haired lady. So that was their therapist in Utah. And then she wasn't licensed in Vegas, which is why she couldn't like do it remotely or couldn't do anything. So they got Nancy, and she found Nancy. Okay. So obviously she's touting, and she vetted Nancy and like real vetting as opposed to Cody Brown vetting. And then got together and did the Sedona weekend together as therapists to do this transition. And it was so interesting. The like sleight of hand that they had in the past, they could have done a horrible edit here to make Cody look bad, but they didn't. You just kind of read it and I watched it and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Didn't. And I kind of went back. I'm like, oh yeah, she did say that. So the original therapist Cody is saying, we'll see how this new therapist is going to go. I don't know. I'm a little apprehensive because she hasn't worked with polygamous people, and our other person worked with polygamous family. So, the jury's out. He's setting it up for, I don't like therapy. I don't want to go anyway. And she doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, fine.
Right.
But the reality is the other therapist, when she first came down there, she said she never worked with a polygamous family. The Browns were the first family she met. So like it's in there, it's in the episode, but they could have spliced it and put it together back to back and made Cody look like a complete liar, but they didn't. They gave him pretty favorable edits early on. And it wasn't reality the way it was. I never caught it the first time through. It just kind of went over my head, and I'm watching it now going, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Didn't she just say rewind, watch another freaking commercial?
Right.
TLC has earned so much money on all the commercials I've had to watch on this stupid show. Because when you go back and watch something, if you go back again, you have to watch the dang commercials. Like they frustrate me. That channel, their online platform.
Yeah,
I'm playing my mahjong during the commercials now so I don't get. I took whoosha.
Because that was awesome. She was like, because he was like, yeah, she's pretty much an expert when it comes to polygamous families because she's worked with them, and she's like the preeminent therapist for polygamous families. And like you said, she was like, no, this is the first one. I thought it was so interesting, and everybody was nice about it, but it was just that, dare I say, it was bullshit. Like you're lying. Cody's lying about it.
Yeah.
But and that's the whole thing is that when I can't find it. Oh well. But the therapist's name is Pat. So
Pat.
People write it in Pat and Patty.
Pat.
Patricia, yeah.
Yes.
But that was the whole thing, is that I think that initially they were given kind edits, especially being as though it was like an early show and there was still a little fervor about this new different alternative lifestyle, and they had a lot of traction that way. But then as the series was going on, and it wasn't enough. And that's one of the dangers. And like, if you're ever going to do a reality show, this is the reality of reality shows, is that the first season you come out and you do something. Every season after you come out and you do something, the next season has to be bigger. And so by the time they get to like around season 4 or 5, people have already seen like the hokey, Robin's given a little bit of trouble, a little bit of pushback, and they want more.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that the show started pushing fake storylines, but they just started showing a little more of what's actually happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So they weren't giving them the kind edit is, we're not going to show when Christine flips out and leaves the set for 2 days, 3 days. We're going to just pretend like she just walked away and came right back. Took 5 minutes and came right back. But we're not going to show that you messed up, like how bad you messed up. If they were to shoot that same scene this season, then they would show like day 1, Christine, are you ready to go back? No, I hate them. Day 2,
Yeah. Or if they had it already edited like that, it would be 3 days later.
Right, exactly. They would show up with different clothes on. Don't wear the same thing.
Yeah.
We're going to let people know because this is real. We're keeping it real. So it would have been bad. It would have been bad. Cody wouldn't like it. But I mean, it is what it is. But I think that too, there's the money push is there as well. Because I say, why did you walk away? The truth of the matter is, by the time they started editing, giving like real cuts to the edits, and they started showing more. And to be honest with you, Cody and Robin, and even some of the other sister wives weren't looking as good. From the perspective of like these holier than thou conservatives, puritanical groups, organizations, they weren't looking as good. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, they just said, look, I mean, if you don't want to do it anymore, that's fine, but we just not gonna write you any checks.
Right.
And by that time they have you in so deep, they know you need them. It's like I recently was talking to my daughter about that. Like when you work jobs or whatever, no matter how much you may need the job, if you need a job, never let your boss know that you need the job.
Yeah.
Because if they know you need it, that you have to have this job, they start treating you different. It's just the way it works. Like all of a sudden they ask you to come in, they putting pressure on you, getting additional assignments that, can't be done in a allotted time and all kinds of crazy stuff. So you just have to, if you're working a job, always keep options, but, to where you can go somewhere else, build up your resume as best you can, get your objectives and things down, keep a fresh resume in the pocket, but at the same time, never let them know that you absolutely positively have to have this job, because they will treat you different. And I think that happens with TV shows, especially once they realize that, okay, you guys went out, we write you a check on Friday. You've already spent that check by Thursday. So you're getting that check and you're basically paying off your creditors because you've already blown through that check. Then you go out and you buy 5 houses or 4 houses. Then you run out to Arizona. You sell those houses. You run out to Arizona. You buy a property that you can't build on. Then you buy 2 houses, Christine's house and Robin's house, $1 million house. And that's blowing your budget out. So by that time, they know that they got you.
Right.
So even when they do the negotiation, and that's why I say Cody was screwed for the negotiation, because when he went back and did the negotiation, of course you're going to take less money. Because they know you need it. Like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you 1 salary and you guys just split it up between you. Or we can cancel the show. What are you going to say? You'll be mad. You're going to cuss in the car, but you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. TLC must also know he's not going to get anything else once the show is over. So he can sit there and fight and complain all he wants to try to get more money. But he's going to get what TLC thinks they deserve. That's what he's going to get in the end.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to mention
was
what came to my mind at the very end. Christine, well, a lot of this part is Christine enjoying coming out, always wanting to tell her truth, to say what she believes in, and the freedom and the excitement and everything that came along with it. And it didn't strike me until the very end of the chapter when she said, I enjoy being open about being married to Cody, and we do many things as a married couple, and he can openly say that we are all his wives. And then it dawned on me, Mary talked about how she really struggled with this whole aspect of it. This changed everything for Mary.
Yeah.
He no longer is the one that gets to go out in public with them. She's the one, no longer the one that Cody, when he says he has a wife, it's Mary. Like they still had that together. And the show, although she was still the first wife, the show was going to end all that. It was going to make them all on an equal playing field. And it just never really dawned on me until I read that specific line from Christine, how she's like, I can now go out in public. I can call him my husband. We can go on dates together. And she used to be the only one that could go on a date one-on-one with him. Otherwise, it looks so bad. He's like, I can't go into the same restaurant with a different woman the next time. It looks bad. It looks, so it was just like the one thing that stood out that I thought, why did I not think about that before? I'm surprised that Mary didn't say it. It would be an honest thing. I mean, I would understand her perspective. She really had this little corner of the world alone with him that like she could hold on to, that was like, he's still just mine. He still says I'm his wife, and I'm still the one that goes places with him in public, which goes back to the very beginning when he would take trips and everything. He always took her. He never took Janelle. He always took Mary because Mary's his wife. So, and the people on the job sites and whatnot, they knew Mary as his wife. So she got to take trip after trip after trip when he would do all these road trips for work, and Janelle was left back at home. So this was going to rock her world to come out to the world, because now she's just another wife.
No, that's actually, that's very interesting, because that opens a lot for, especially when you look at it from a perspective of, like you said, there's some things that she held on to. Like, for instance, they all sat around and talked about, like, I compare that revelation, which is actually a very good observation. Just my opinion. I think it's a great observation. I never even thought it never even occurred to me. But yeah, it's a great observation. But because it's one of those things that it harkens back to when Mary was the only wife, and Cody had asked her for a divorce. Well, I'm sorry. They presented that Mary had suggested they get a divorce, but clearly this is something that Cody and Robin had pressed on Mary, and maybe planted seeds, or they came right out and asked her, and they wanted her to present it as though she wanted the divorce. But clearly she didn't want the divorce. But that marriage was important to her, because that was something that she had over the other wives. That was something that was special to Mary that she had, and everybody could sit around. And I said this forever, that everybody could sit around and pretend like marriages don't mean shit, but they do. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, it's just a piece of paper. It does. Like, if it's just the two of you, then you have a better footing, in my opinion, to make a similar argument. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. But it's very difficult for me to believe that, even when I'm watching Seeking Sister Wives and other programs like that, where you have one legal wife, and then you want to just start adding girlfriend on girlfriend on girlfriend and call them wives, and pretend like there's no difference between the legal wife and these other women, because there is a significant difference. If you get sick and you go to the hospital, the only one who can, your legal wife could tell the other women to go home and tell the hospital, I don't want them here. And the hospital will send security down and escort you and the other three wives and your kids out of the hospital. The hospital come in and say, look, he about to go. We can hold him on for a few minutes. We have an opportunity for 4 people to go in there and say bye to him. Okay, kids, let's go. The 4 of us are going back. What about the other wives? What about them? I'm the legal wife. I get to make the decision. When they die or something happens to them, the legal wife is her stuff. That's hers. So all like Cody passed. That's why I was a big proponent for them to get lawyers involved before they before they agree to that Coyote Pass stuff. Like they should have had lawyers involved from the beginning to divide that property up the way it was going to be divided. Forget all that. Oh, I trust you guys. Forget that. Because when things, this is what I've always said about lawyers and contracts. Anytime you formulate a business, marriage, whatever the case may be, try to figure out while you still like each other, what happens if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of looking out for the other person. But when that relationship dissolves, whether it's business or personal, romantic, whatever, when it dissolves, oh baby, then it's all you don't deserve nothing. But I think that's an excellent point, because that would have changed Mary's entire thing. And the ironic part about it is, because of the show, if we put it in the timeline, even Cody wasn't interested in changing whether who can call him wife or husband or being associated with that title up until Robin enters the family. And that's kind of the backhand end of it, is that when Robin comes into the family, because when they started the show, Robin was a part of the beginning of the show. So when he was open to saying, oh, that's my wife, that's my wife, that's my wife in public, Robin was one of the people whom he would have been doing that for. You know what I mean? And it's funny to me that he wasn't interested in doing it before sis wife. I mean, maybe it's a coincidence, but I'm just saying it's a little weird to me.
A lot of coincidences with this.
Right. A lot of, when it comes to her, it's just coincidences that are all the way around. Like, moving to Vegas right around the corner from her mom, moving to Arizona where Dayton happens to be going to school.
Lots of
to get a divorce. The only way I can adopt these kids is if Mary gives them the divorce and I become the legal wife. I don't want to do it. It doesn't mean anything to me. If it doesn't mean anything to you, why don't you go ahead, get divorced? Cody, you marry Robin, you adopt the kids. After the kids are adopted, you divorce Robin and give one of the other wives a chance. Hell, marry Janelle. I always said, like, either between Janelle said Mary was good because she would have been good as far as property division, but Janelle would have been number 2. Yeah. Because she would have made sure everybody got something, or everybody got what they deserved. Yeah. So, I mean, when that would have made sense to me if anybody was going to get married.
It would have made sense.
Yeah, I want to give
in
it to
the long run, the way it all worked out, I bet if Janelle was legally married to him, that would be something that would keep her there longer. I bet she wouldn't have walked away like she did when she did. I think she would have been like, yeah, now this involves a divorce. I'll make it work. And so in the end, it worked out the way it should for sanity of the OG3 and for their lives to now move on and be successful and happy.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, because I think that's an interesting point, but that Janelle would have stayed longer had she actually been the legal wife. But I counter that with this notion. Would Cody have talked to her that way if she was the legal wife? Because if he would have talked to her crazy like that, if she divorced him, she could bankrupt him. But with where she was, and because as much as they talked about, like, oh, we're all the same and we all have equal power and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, I know that Cody understood and Robin understood that Janelle was vulnerable and that Cody owned everything. Because even when Cody talked about it, what did he say? He said, Janelle just used me for my 6-pack abs, and I feel like she's she's
you just can't do it with a straight face, can you?
Right? It's so ridiculous. My 6-pack abs, and he said that she uses me for my resources. So she's using him for money, is what he, the things that he could give her. So I think that he thought that, I think if he would have, maybe if she would have had that paper, it would have slowed his roll down a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But in the end, they'd still be married then. Because if he wouldn't have shown his true colors and gone off on her the way he did, he would have been like, I'm going to have to make this work.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell those boys they can just come over. They don't have to apologize because I don't need her picking up. And she's already removed herself from the holidays, so she's not coming at Thanksgiving. I feel like I need to make this all better for everyone. So yeah,
Right.
any way you slice it, they'd probably still be together, which would be terrible, and it would make me very sad
Yeah.
for Janelle.
Yeah. I mean, the one, like, marriages don't see, the whole thing is that ultimately, on one side, you could say that the marriage may have kept the family together. But on the other side, if you dig a little deeper, staying together doesn't necessarily mean happy. It doesn't mean fulfilled. It doesn't mean that you're being respected. It just means that you share an address. And I think that that's kind of where it would have stayed. Like, if they would have stayed together based on what I had said, like, Cody, cheaper to keep her and all that, like, mentality that I don't want to create too many problems, then he just won't divorce her, or he won't outwardly say the things, but he'll go back behind her back and do shady stuff behind her back. He may go behind her back and try to hide or conceal funds. He may go behind her back and just treat her nastily. Like, or not behind her back, but he might just treat her nasty, stop coming around and things of that nature. So there might be things that he does to her, which that's not going to be good for her spirit and her soul. And even with that, like, you can drag a divorce out unless both people agree to a divorce where you're getting an uncontested divorce. You could drag a divorce out for years, if not decades. Every time you go for paperwork, you just say to the judge, I want to divorce his ass. Your Honor, I think that with a little more time, we can reconcile this situation. I think that we need to be ordered to go to therapy. And a judge can look you in the face and say, I don't care that you have a boyfriend and you pregnant with another dude's baby. Y'all need to go to therapy and try to work it out. That's why I say don't go to court.
Full circle.
Right. Once again, that's why I'm not a fan of you running. Like, don't get people involved with third parties involved with your relationships unnecessarily.
Yeah,
because you don't know which way they're gonna go.
It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, but all in all, like, what were your thoughts about the chapter as a whole? Like, did you like it? Or?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed some of the additional information. I enjoyed hearing a little bit more about principal voices and that there were 2 members from each sect except for Flds. I like facts. I like specific stuff like that because they talk in such generalities on this show that it's nice when there's some actual information being shared. What was the other thing? There was one other thing, and it can't be just about the fact that she came to know what was going on because that seemed obvious. They all eventually had the light bulb moment of people don't think we're bad. That's amazing. There was like one other like main thing in this chapter that kind of stuck out at me that I thought was interesting. Oh, maybe I'm just thinking of the whole dramatic effect thing that kind of stood out when she was talking about that. It was another one of those truth-telling moments for her to come out and say, no, what you see is what it really is. They're not putting anything in for dramatic effect. It is what it is. So I remember that being the other thing that I felt like I really love this information. The other part about Mary was just my own realization as I was like reading through Christine's words at the end that I'm like, never really thought about this. I don't know why I never thought about it, but the way she worded it made me go, wait a minute. We never addressed the fact that Mary essentially lost her title at this point. I mean, it was almost more loss than the actual divorce because the actual divorce, everything was exactly the same. They lived in the same houses. They were saying, everything kind of looked the same, but that changed her life in terms of perception of everybody else and what she did socially. Like now it used to just be her and Cody, and now everyone else is taking turns. So now it's going to be a fourth of the time that he feels like going out, which he likes to do just about every other day, go out to dinner. Now it's going to be just the other wives or, him sneaking them off to different places and going there. Now it's going to be out. So yeah. What was your overall take on this?
Well, I really like before I get into that, like I really like the angle with Mary because I think one of the I'll have to sit down and really think about it, put my mind to it. But as I consider it even kind of petered around in my mind now, one of the
Mhm.
craziest things is that we put things in a context during that time before this show or before the book came out. Robin or Mary and Cody were having a tough time. They were
Yeah.
struggling. And
Right.
so there's a certain level. I think that there's a certain level, whether real or imagined, perceived, that you feel a certain sense of security with the title wife,
Mhm.
and especially being the only one. Like, as long as I'm his wife, there's a possibility that this relationship can work out.
Mhm.
When he has a business opportunity or a trip or something, and I go and he introduces me as his wife, that's merely confirming my position in the family. And
Mhm.
then, like you said, with that changing, that takes away the opportunity for her to be able to say that at least that false sense of security that the term or title wife actually means something. Like, so I
Mhm.
think that that's actually that certainly from my perspective, for me, that's probably gonna get a lot more attention,
Yeah.
um, surely. But one of the things that really struck me about the chapter, probably one of my the thing that stuck out the most to me was the realization of getting into not only the training that Christine had as far as principal voices and her involvement with trying to make polygamy a little more mainstream and bring it out to people's attention, but actually the work that she put into it, where she actually put an effort to try to make this thing happen. And then
Mhm.
again, like the realization that Cody didn't put in that effort, but he wanted to reap the benefit. This is the equivalent of if every day you go after school and you're missing parties and you're working a job and you're going to school and you're studying like crazy and you're missing all kinds of social activities, and then finally when everybody graduates, you go to college, I go to the parties and the bar and I'm hanging out at the bar, and you go graduate, get your master's or whatever, you start a business, and then you work overtime. I'm spending my money on booze, women, and good times, and you're spending your money on investing into your business, and then all of a sudden your business takes off and is now $1 million, $1 billion business. And then here I come talking about, hey, Jenny, how come I can't be a part of your business?
Right.
You need to make me a partner. Like, what,
Mhm.
what I mean? And that's kind of how I feel about Cody's approach in this situation. Like, Christine is putting in all that work to try to uh be a part of this organization, to make the most of it. Then here comes Cody, like, whoa, there's people talking about making you famous. If anybody comes to you, because what's funny to me is with that statement, one of the things I guess I neglected to mention, one of the things that I thought was funny with that whole entry was, if anybody comes to you with one of those opportunities, I want you to let me know about it, is what Cody tells Christine about the producers and the people offering shows. But
Mhm.
he doesn't say, you know what, I need to start going to these meetings. I need to start getting involved with the organization, find out what's going on and how things are being handled. How are they getting these opportunities? I need to be more involved with the day to day of how you get these opportunities. When opportunities come in, we can vet them together. That's not what he was interested in. He wasn't interested in the work part. So I thought that that part was interesting, and I thought it was
Mhm.
telling. And
Mhm.
then, and like I said, with the whole approach to what they were going through, as far as how they saw their responsibility of put being a part of Sister Wives, because I think it harkens to something that I personally have, as far as like even with my YouTube videos and things of that nature, to how I run my channel. Uh for the most part, I try to be respectful on the channel. I try to not put out information I either don't believe in or I'm not sure about. Like, I
Mhm.
don't try to guess too much about stuff, because I understand that there's a certain level of power in the microphone. I understand that there's a certain level of power. If I'm putting out misinformation or disinformation about things, then I can, damage people's reputations. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. And it is, I'm not saying like I'm this great all powerful YouTuber and it's YouTube, but at the end of the day, you don't know what message you're going to put out that could affect somebody's situation or whatever, good or bad.
Yeah.
And I think that we as YouTubers, as content creators, or even people on TLC, there's a certain level of responsibility that goes with that. So I saw a little hearkening of that responsibility in Christine's portion of this chapter. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. 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 Deep down inside, she is good people, Christine. Yeah. And she's learning more about herself every single year, every season on the show, and probably the most in the past 2 years she's learned about herself. So
right. And the other thing I did like, just so I have three, one of the things I did like is something that was mentioned actually in Janelle's chapter, and that's the idea of honesty. By having the show, it invited them to be honest about not only their situations, but their relationships with each other. And I think that that's important as well. And I think that's one of the things that Christine kind of touched on with learning to be honest about who you are, what you're about, what your family makeup is, and then you can be honest about, she said she made a reference that she didn't know that Janelle thought that a lot of her activities and how she acted in public was embarrassing to Janelle. She never considered that until after the show started. But because of the show, she got to hear it on the couch, because that's what Janelle said it. I remember her saying it in the episode. I think it was like episode 2, how embarrassed she was going out with the three of them, and they would be acting crazy in the stores.
Yeah.
And because they have to sit there and listen to each other, then all of a sudden a lot of it resonates more. So
yeah, I remember Janelle even pointing to that in one of her chapters, saying like, these are things we would never tell each other, but it comes out on these coach interviews, and then we have to address it and deal with it. But I think they did a pretty good job of that in general. I mean, I think it was the best thing for their family, because just imagine how everything would still be under the surface. Oh, it would just be a mess if they didn't have couch interviews to come out after Robin came in. If Robin came into the family and they didn't have this show, if it ended up only going like one season and then that was it, it would just be very miserable wherever they would end up living. Ideally, they probably should stay in the Lehigh house and just put an addition on for Robin, is what they probably, because that's about all they'd have the money to do. They couldn't buy another house probably. So I think in the long run, it's good to, they were raised to push so much stuff down. Their feelings, their emotions, their religion, that like secrets were such a part of it. And it still is kind of part of Robin and Cody's relationship. They have their full set of secrets that they have going on. But just the notion that things that bothered them, they would never share with each other, because they tried to keep sweet and keep the peace and be the good wife and not cause problems. Because when they did see Cody, they didn't want to have to deal with talking to him about how he mentioned that this wife was hurt by this and having to deal with that. So if you just act like everything's good all the time, then you don't have any conflict with Cody during the time that you do get him every 4 days. And I think that would lead to Robin being a very happy wife and the other three being miserable.
Right. Yeah. She would get her needs met.
Oh, yeah.
And even with moving in the house, like I think that ultimately they would have just had to make sacrifices so that Robin can maintain her private residence around the corner.
Oh.
And I think that's just how they would have ran it. I don't see her moving into the Lehigh house at all.
You don't think? I always thought they'd put an addition on the back.
Yeah, because I don't think she would want to.
Because you're right. She probably wouldn't want to. You're right.
Yeah, because if say if it's Christine, Mary, or Janelle's night, then she even said like she would come over to the house on their nights. But if it's her night, they don't have a way to get to her house or in
Right.
her house. So she could have her Cody time all to herself. And then she could also kind of sponge off their time if she wanted to. So, but she would be able to keep her stuff secret. And you can also hide a lot more if you're able to be in a different residence. So when you get them Amazon packages hitting that door, you don't have to worry about one of the other kids scooping them. You know,
that's why she wanted to get out of that cul-de-sac.
right,
Give me
right.
a house where nobody sees a delivery truck coming every day.
Every day, there's UPS, FedEx, like,
Yeah.
guys in personal cars are dropping packages off. They think she's running product out the house before it's all over. Yeah, but it's just like, I think that's an interesting thing too. Like, it's just their ability to be honest. Like, it says a lot, because I couldn't imagine being in a marriage or a relationship, even for that matter, where you can't be honest with your partner about what's going on with you because you're too afraid that, you know, if I make it uncomfortable for them, they won't come by. Sometimes in every relationship, you're going to have uncomfortable conversations. It's just built into the situation. If you don't have uncomfortable conversations, then you're not vested enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your relationship doesn't mean anything. Because you're going to have an uncomfortable conversation every now and again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Truth. I'm really looking forward to this next season.
Yeah. If they ever come out and tell us when it's going to come out, like, it's already getting kind of long in the tooth. So
yeah,
I don't know if they're going to do another Christmas thing where they just drop it. Hey guys, this week, Sister Wives, first episode.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
This week we're in tomorrow.
I pray this year they do 2 seasons. I pray that they start to catch up and they do a spring season, just knowing, because they have to see that everywhere across social media, people are complaining about the fact that, like, it almost makes you not want to watch the show, because it's like, well, who cares that Gwendolyn got married? That was, you know, a year and a half ago or whatever, like 2 years ago or what, you know, like, they're so far behind. They're like 18 months behind, and like so much has happened. Like, we're going to see the birth, the twins who are running around on their way to North Carolina and jumping up and all this stuff. Like, we're watching them be born this season. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't care. Like, I just want to skip that whole episode. So they have to hear that people are saying this, and that, like, I'm not as excited about jumping in to see what's going on, because you're showing everything we know that's going on already, but show us what's happening now. Now I'm interested. Very interested, in fact. They have the ability to do it. It just blows my mind. Why are they not? That's what I don't get. Who is making the executive decision that they ended in December and they're not starting till August or September, when they have tons of footage from years ago that they could have put a spring season out?
Right. And that's the thing. It's not like they have to film it. It's already filmed.
It's done.
They just have to edit it. Yeah.
Yes.
And just put it out. Yeah.
That's it. All you have to do is edit it.
And if anything, like, like, from the production side, I think that you actually are damaging your cast, and that gives them more incentive to stop filming with you. Like, talking about the Browns to TLC, because, like, for instance, we talked about McKelty and her birth. Like you said, I have no real interest in watching the babies be born. But if you would have played that, like, right around the time when the babies were born, like, even if it's a couple months after they were born and everything is fine or whatever, if it would have came out, it would have been an event.
Right.
Well, now you're just making it a bonus episode.
Right.
You know, it's not even really important to watch it now, because, like you said, I know the kids are fine. I know they're okay. I know what sex they are. I think I know their names. I have their names written down somewhere. So it's not even a thing, really. So
no, not at all.
It's a disservice to everybody.
Nothing interesting about it whatsoever. And so it's just like, skip, move on. Of course I'll watch it. I'm a content creator. But if I wasn't a content creator, I think I would have skipped that episode. I don't like the birth episodes anyway. They make me, I don't like just watching somebody in pain and screaming, because, you know, none of them have epidurals. They're all in all this the Maddie one. It was so like, it just, not a fan. It was the same thing with 19 Kids in County. Those were they were like the most viewed somehow. Like, they had I think it was Jill's birth was like the most viewed episode of. I'm like, why? I think I fast forwarded a lot of that. Jess's birth and all of them. I was just like, I don't know why. I don't like. I mean, I don't like seeing people in pain. That's why I wanted to be a nurse, and then I thought I can't do anything that might possibly cause somebody pain. I couldn't give them a shot, or I couldn't. So I stopped that, and I was going to be a physical therapist. And then I realized they inflict pain on people.
Right.
And I went to speech therapy. I'm like, give me something where nobody's going to be in pain.
They show up hurt. Like those are all jobs. They show up hurt.
Yeah.
Well, with the childbirths, it's because I have that with I watched Unexpected on TLC, and those are my least favorite episodes because, like you said, it's always like somebody questioning whether they're going to do the epidural or not. Do the damn epidural. What are you trying to prove?
Do it.
Trying to prove? Yeah. One.
Do it.
Two. It's always like the same thing. Childbirth is hard.
Yes.
It's hard. Like it's not a pleasant thing. Like I've never heard of somebody like, oh, I went into childbirth. It was so amazing. Like it just felt like a release. Like I've never heard anybody say that.
No.
So when I see it, I'm not. If I saw like if it was an episode and they did say like this was so orgasmic, I'll be like, okay, that's different. Maybe I did need to see that because I have the understanding that childbirth is terrible. Like not terrible, but you understand what I mean. It's hard.
It's terrible. I just literally this week, I could go through my texts and read to you. I literally just this week texted my daughter, and like one of the lines was, God was not joking when he said, like if it's God level pain, when God's saying this is going to be painful, he knows, he understands pain. So I'm like, and it was all because she had a girlfriend from work who was pregnant, and I kept saying like, oh, isn't so-and-so going to have her baby soon? And she's like, yeah, she's past due. And they think that baby's already around 9 pounds. And I'm like, well, they're not inducing her. It's her first child too. The hardest one to get out. And I'm like, whoa, what, 9 pounds already? They're not inducing? No. She wants to go natural. She's waiting to go natural. And I said, no, she doesn't want to do it. And of course, I'm saying all this to my daughter so that, because of course I had the same idea with my first. So I'm like trying to coach my daughters now, like, don't listen to all the YouTubers who are saying how amazing it is. And it's natural that way. There was a lot of deaths in natural childbirth back in the day as well. Modern medicine has a place in our world. Not against people who deliver naturally. If you did, God bless you. And I worship you. I just couldn't do it myself. So I told her, I'm like 9 pounds, and like each day keeps going by. And I'm like, is there like a plan? Like if you get to, because that's what happened with my second. My doctor induced me with my second because when I already got to 8 pounds, because I had like labored so long with my first and pushed for hours with my first. She's like, we're not going to go through that again. That one was 7 pounds, 10 ounces. The minute this baby gets to 8 pounds, we're inducing. And I'm like, hallelujah, I'm there. I'm with you. I'm okay. Yeah, no problem. So she goes, no. She wants no epidural and she wants no Pitocin. She wants it to be completely natural. I go, no, she doesn't. It's her first child and it's 9 pounds. Like, she had no idea what she's talking about. Does she not have a mama who's going to talk to her? I don't understand what you're talking about. So eventually I get a text yesterday. She had her baby and she goes, look at this cute little chunky monkey. And it's just like roly-poly, adorable baby. And she's smiling. And I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful picture. That's fantastic. I love his name. I can't remember what it was, but I love his name. And I said, well, what was the status? Did she end up having to be induced, or what about pain? She was induced and received an epidural. And I'm like, yeah. And then she tells me, she's like, oh, Aaliyah in the office was texting her after she was already in the hospital and is asking her how things are going. And she said, not so bad. She said, the contractions are just like a 3 out of 10. And she goes, but the IV they gave me was like a 10 out of 10. And she goes, Aaliyah told me, she goes, oh, baby, if she thinks the IV was a 10 out of 10, she's never gonna make it. I'm like, no way. If the contractions were just starting.
Yeah.
3.
Like, you do realize
no idea. Yeah. So
that
now
3 is just a starter.
Yes, she put herself through all of that. That baby was 9.5 pounds, and she could have just induced it like a week and a half earlier, but she kept waiting. So yeah, no. No, I'm trying to teach the younger generation.
I'm telling you. And
No.
that's the thing too, because everybody, I'm just because that's the theme on unexpected. Like I'm just gonna have it natural and it's gonna be
Yeah.
great. I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, let me tell you something. Some of these little big head crumb crushers, they come out and they tear meow chow all the way from the root to the tooth. You get
That's
toe up
right.
and they got to stitch you back together. Like they bust you up. So look, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm under no illusion that it's we're gonna watch the childbirth.
Yeah.
I'm under no illusion that it's gonna be
Right.
a pleasant birth. Like it's usually gonna be a lot of screaming involved
Yeah.
and stuff going on.
Even
So
with the epidural, it's not like
yeah,
they completely numb you because you have to push, you have to
right.
feel. So they have to like eventually, it has to wear back off again. That just gets you through until okay, it's time to push. And if you push as long as I did too, like there's none left at that point. You're just
Say the
like,
bag empty, you know.
"Hey."
You
When that,
didn't like the toothpaste. You
yeah,
didn't get it all out.
When it was the time when the anesthesiologist came afterwards, after like my husband was the one that like I was practically passed out at this point because I was so exhausted. I hadn't slept for over 24 hours. I was in labor for 17. And then at the point he was just like, no, she's ready. Because the nurse is like, any chance? And he goes, oh yeah, she's ready. She's ready. And I'm just laying there exhausted. Like I don't even have the effort to like nod my head and say, yes, give me an epidural. And so the anesthesiologist walks in and he goes, the Candyman's here. Bring me some candy. Bring me some candy.
Yeah, right. I got a sweet tooth, Daddy. Like,
that's right. You're my favorite person in this whole hospital.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, somebody said, where's this at? Somebody said something. I've been trying to keep up with some of you guys are crazy as hell. Because somebody said thing that their sister was like 5'2", had a 10-pound baby. I'm like, did that baby drive her home?
What?
Like, holy smokes, yeah. Like 5 feet.
Yes, Sam Stewart. Sam Stewart asked, didn't you bite? Yeah, that's when my husband actually told the nurse that I was ready. I bit his arm. And after I bit my husband's arm, he's like, she's ready for the epidural.
Yeah. Please get that epidural.
That's right. I don't need I look at the teeth bite.
Yeah, right.
I just needed to bear down on something and his hand was there doing the counting and I saw that arm and I just grabbed it.
Delicious.
Like a chicken bone.
and that's the thing too, because one other thing they'll tell you that you can't eat. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so you sit there starving, so you're hungry as hell. Like, no, man. I watch because they do that on the shows all the time. It'll be like I guess the scripted shows, and they'll be like, okay, she's having a baby. They'll be like, and all of a sudden the baby, right, you have a boy. They sit on your lap.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I remember.
That's not how it went down in my room.
Hey, right? I don't remember that. Like, the whole time makeup is perfect. Makeup flawless, you know?
Yep. I do have to say I have sympathy for Robin Brown. Because her mama told her that a lady does not yell out or make a fuss when she goes through labor. And she didn't. She was just, quiet little moans and pushed those kids out. She had to have been going through torture. Right. And there's mama sitting right at the end of the bed making sure that this goes this way. Of course, there was no pain medicine there anyway because she was doing a home birth at that point. But she couldn't bite Cody's arm. That would have not been permitted in that situation. And so I do have to say, I bow down to her in that regard because her mom told her this is how it has to go. And she listened to mama. And mama sat there and watched her the whole time to make sure. That's wrong. That's wrong.
But that also taps back into the thing we were talking about with just being honest. Like if you can't even be honest about the pain you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's crazy as hell. That is crazy.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Nope. You shouldn't be making any noises. Don't make this, the notion of it was, don't make this too uncomfortable for your husband.
Right. He's special because he's in the room and not down at the bar getting loaded with his buddies.
Right.
So you're blessed. He's a good man.
Right.
Like there they go setting them low bars again.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is insane.
Cody has no idea.
Yeah, and that's the equivalent of telling your sons or whatever, don't cry. You know what I mean?
Right.
Real men don't cry. They don't cry. And then you wonder why they, you know what I mean? They doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Because they can't show emotion.
Holding it all in.
Yeah, they hold it in until they walk in front of a bus. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Because but that's part of the reason why men have like the mental health situations they have is because they're told stuff like that. And if they're telling women that you can't show emotion because you're having a baby and you don't want to make your husband uncomfortable.
Right.
I wish somebody would have said that. I wonder what would have happened. Don't do that because you make your husband uncomfortable. It's like, well, he made me uncomfortable. He put me here. You know?
That's right. I've been comfortable for the past 9 months.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
I had to ride through some of this summer.
That's right. Who was it? Somebody wrote in here, Scientology does that too. Misty.
Oh, wow.
I remember that because I remember with Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, that when she was pregnant, that's when I first heard about it, how they said silent births, no medicine, because Scientologists don't believe in medicines.
Yeah.
No medicine and silent births. And I just thought, is she going to do that? Is she really going to do that? Because I mean, she made the agreement before she married him. She knew what she was getting into, and she had to have known that was part of the fact. I see, but she didn't have another kid.
She left his ass too. After that.
She did. She left and took her child and left.
What's always funny to me is that like in those type of situations, the guys will be like, "Oh yeah, if you have a baby, you don't need an epidural, you don't need no pain medication because that's that's stuff that you don't need, and you can put your mind in a certain space." Yeah. But these are the same guys. If they twist their ankle or blow their knee out, they getting all kinds of morphine, and then they riding out the oxy and all that other stuff.
Or get a temperature of 98.8 and end up in the fetal position on the floor. I mean, same people.
Cody, I almost died. Like every chance he got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you, Cody. Yes, I do. Hey, yes. Every talked about that COVID stuff, he was like, I almost died. No, you didn't. Died. Stop it. You were sick. I had it too. I had it, I think twice, at least twice, maybe 3 times. I don't know. But just couldn't stop getting it for some reason. And I was actually safe. What's crazy is I was safe. Like I was isolated. I went to like one thing. I did a group thing, got sick because somebody showed up knowing they had it and gave it to everybody. And then it was downhill after that. But it was just like I was sick, but I wasn't like you. I will say this. There's a point where you were like, oh God, this is it.
I'm about to meet my maker.
Right. Everything I've been through, I'm gonna get killed by the flu. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But you have that feeling, then you get better. And then as I've said this before, there are a couple people in the chat who shared with me before that like they actually lost people during COVID. So like for me to sit there and like, oh yeah, I was afraid I was going to die because for 2 days I didn't feel good, or like I was down for about a week. For a week I didn't feel well, and people are gone. Right. And I feel like an idiot saying, you know what I mean?
Yes. But exactly. That 100%. There are a lot of people in my chat are the same thing the first time I addressed it. They're like my brother, my uncle, they had all these relatives that really did lose their lives. And there's Cody in the parking lot debating, should I admit myself? I don't know if it works that way, Cody. They're not going to take you. Like you don't even have a fever. Like you're coughing, get over yourself and you don't feel well. Okay.
Right.
Go lay down in bed.
Because I don't have nobody at home to feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. I don't have anybody at home. I'm dropping her off, and Robin's like, I got to get admitted because I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
need time away from you.
He said that too once, didn't he? I couldn't breathe. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
saw you on a video. It's impossible to speak if you can't breathe. That's how you know
Right.
someone's really choking. If they're coughing and you hear the noise, they're okay. There's still air going through there. If they're talking in any way, I can't, like it's, but when it gets to the point that you can't say anything, you're in real trouble.
Right.
At
Right.
that point, like you may feel like, but Cody, for him to say that, unbelievable. Unbelievable. He just like the words out of his mouth are so offensive, and he has zero ability to self-reflect. Zero.
Yeah. And sympathize with somebody else. I had COVID and I almost died. And when Christine started laughing, which I thought was awesome, and he looks at her and says, "Well, did Janelle think, or did Gwendolyn think it was funny too?" It's like, yeah, we all laugh together, Cody. Yeah, because you keep bringing it up, starting fights about it.
Yeah. Well, you're mean that way.
Yeah. You're mean that way. Yes,
and
I
love
am.
Her reaction to that was just like,
okay, all right.
Ooh.
Gotcha.
She still had like that little smile on her face, like, okay.
Yeah, right. I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
we're
right.
Abuse each other.
All right. Yeah, I didn't think we were going to revert back to elementary school, but apparently we are.
Right. And that's when you started asking about the therapy. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But all in all, I thought it was a good chapter. I look forward to doing the Robin one. I think Robin is going to be back to just settling old scores and trying to justify bad behavior. But we'll see how it goes.
I will miss you next week.
Yes.
On that one, it's devastating to me that I have missed 2 Robin chapters out of all of them. Those are the 2 that I'm not able to come to. But I'll be back the week after that.
Yeah, for the Cody epilogue where, he's going to give his, because we had a whole chapter where the ladies got to give their perspective. So he's going to have to come in and probably rock a 30-page dissertation.
Yeah. And this is what I think about all of that, because they didn't let me join in like on the first section. I got to be a part of everything, and now I'm not a part of it anymore. So I'm going to have to sum up everything and put it at the very end.
Right. Because I'm the patriarch.
I'm sure there will be 0 words of wisdom in there, but he will think that he's dropping golden nuggets.
What's this? The Ruth asked, "Did I get the dreaded man cold?" No. Usually, I either if I'm really sick, I'll just hibernate up in the room by myself.
Yeah.
And if somebody brings food to me, that's cool. But I don't really.
Were you able to make it onto your bed, or did you have to end up on the floor like Cody?
No, I was in the bed.
It's actually easier to get into bed than it is to go down to the floor.
Yeah. Like you gotta crawl into the bathroom. Like it's too much.
Yeah, I don't know why he went down on the floor in the fetal position. It starts to make me wonder if any of that is true.
Right. I suspect that some of it may be a little bit exaggerated.
Slightly, yeah.
But it's just like you don't have to. Like if you're sick, you're sick. Like I don't like to drag it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're sick, you're sick. I look forward to getting better. Like so. Usually when I'm sick, I look forward to getting better. Like I'm not trying to. I don't want to be sick. So usually I have too much to do anyway. So it's not really like I'm sitting. All I'm doing is sitting there thinking about all the stuff I need to do, but I can't do.
The inconvenience of it,
right?
The timing of it. I'm like, what if this would have just happened 3 days ago? I wasn't doing anything last weekend, but I got all this to do this week. Yeah.
Now I'm loaded up. This is ridiculous.
Yep. It always comes at the worst time, right?
Right, and that's when everybody got somewhere to be, and I got to take them. So,
yeah.
No, you figure it out. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think that it's some of it's just overplayed. Like, if you're not feeling well, again, you're not feeling well. Let it be what it is. But I don't believe in crying wolf either. So if I'm sick, I don't want to sit there every time I'm sick, sit there and talk about how I'm going to die, and then if I ever do find myself in a situation like, oh my goodness, I think something's really happening. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go up there when the commercial's over. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to say, if I say something's wrong, I want people to come. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
you know.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, but so what did you have popping this week? Did you have
I
anything?
just dropped a video today, so everybody go check it out.
Okay.
It's kind of multiple topics, but they were all sort of speared on by a bunch of recent McKelty. I used to just put list them all as McKelty Speaks. I think I still have them in my list as that, but I don't have that as like the title of the video anymore. But it's sort of like all different nuggets of information that I didn't know. And so that's in there. That came out today. And then on Tuesday, I believe there's going to be another one that's released. That's a good one too.
Okay.
And then I have some ideas and some videos that I've collected. So my goal is to tomorrow record 2 more so I can in the next 2 days after that edit them and have them mostly done. So when I leave to go on my trip, I might just have little things to do to edit it. So I'm hoping for you all that I'll just have a regular video that comes out on the Thursday and Sunday, because I know you won't see me on those days. And hopefully I'll get it basically done before I go. So I'll just schedule them to drop every couple of days. It's my goal.
There you go.
Tell me about what you've got going on.
Well, I just dropped a video. There it is behind me. The Christine's Untold Story of Heroism. And I dressed up like a Wonder Woman. So I was going to talk about like the whole her struggles with postpartum depression, especially in that first season, as they're getting through the first season, and the fact that she's expected to show up every time and continue to work. And not only continue to work, but continue to have a positive attitude and talk about how awesome polygamy is while she's struggling with her issues. I thought that was something. So I put something together to talk about that. And I have, of course, Sister Lives tomorrow. We'll be talking about episode 4, season 3, episode 4. And there's a new show out called not Strange Love, Taboo Love or some shit. I forgot what it's called. It's something Forbidden Love. That's what it is.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be doing reviews on that. But
okay.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like that show is pretty. It's so far it's a little predictable.
I see some people in the chat here talking about cold sores. That's one of the topics. McKelty calls out Robin's cold sores as she's watching the episode. Yeah. So I put the clip in there so y'all can see it of what McKelty says. But I was just like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. She drops. I think it was right before she moved to North Carolina. And I feel like she just thought, I don't give an S anymore.
Wow.
And so I felt like she was much more revealing in her last 2 Patreons. So that's why the whole thing covers 5 different mini topics. Cause it wasn't, I thought I just want to cover all these little things where I feel like she's being transparent for the first time. And that's one of them, for her to say something. Yeah.
Wowsy.
Yes.
Well, that's the one thing, because I know a lot of folks in the chat have talked about the cold sores before, them being busted out. But I've never really heard them directly address the cold sore situation.
No. That was the first time I've ever heard anyone. That's why I thought it was amazing too. Right. And then it was Robin, and she did it kind of in a snarky way as well. It wasn't just, oh, look at that,
Yeah, that's one of the things you say, oh,
I know.
Okay.
I know. And I've never mentioned a word about any of it. It does show up in chat a lot, and there's a lot of conversation about it. I've never said anything, but then I just thought, well, I'm just going to share what McKelty has to say here. Piggyback off of her a little bit and let her do the talking.
Right. This is what the daughter had to say.
That's right.
Wow. Wow. Lord,
Yeah.
her pause. But okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I guess in fairness, it's something that should be talked about. And it's in all honesty, if you really think about it, that
Yeah.
is one of the downsides that has to be talked about, especially as you start talking about bringing people into your marriage, whether it's through committed
Absolutely.
relationships, polygamy, polygyny, swinging, whatever the case may be. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those
Yeah.
kind of situations, they should
Yeah.
be talked about.
Yeah. 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 I mean, they had to work
Mhm.
through it. That has to be something. I mean, watching it on the show, it's obviously something that crosses everybody's mind. So it was one of those situations of, yeah, I feel like she took the way she said it. I felt like she was calling her out. Because there's always that what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like,
Right,
who's the
right.
culprit that started it all? Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, okay. All
yeah,
right.
I know. It's sort of like, all right, moving on. Topic 2.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Okay. So
Yeah.
look forward to that. I got some watching. Oh, and I have I'll be releasing a Cody video this week too. So
Oh,
make sure you
good.
check that out. The two faces of Cody. Or I'll
Hmm.
call it something to that degree.
Only 2.
No, yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I think I might call it. I think I might call that video because it's probably more descriptive to call it Cody versus Cody.
Yeah, there you go.
Because
Oh, that's good.
yeah, it's the because specifically I want to talk about like the first season Cody, like the early season Cody, so where Cody is now, and
Mm-hmm.
how ironically the Cody that we have now is
Mm-hmm.
actually the archetype that the first Cody presentation of Cody argued against. So
Oh,
he's the exact,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where he is now is the exact person that the family would come out and say, we're not like that type of person. That's not what the family is about. But
Mm-hmm.
now he's exactly the person that they used to argue and say that they were
Mm-hmm.
absolutely not like.
Mm-hmm.
So Cody
Yeah.
versus Cody, yeah.
Yeah. I just remembered my other video is going to be Robin wanting baby number 6. So there's kind of lots. It's just really that one section of the show, which I didn't remember at all. I'm like, did I miss this episode in the past? I don't remember it at all, but it was her talking about the children that she has in heaven that she wants to still bring down, and
Mhm.
like that whole thing. And I'm like, that was all new to me. So we covered that. And then we cover a little bit of Robin and Cody's lack of parenting skills in that video as well. And also Cody's reaction to Robin when she brought it up, and like what it looks like he's thinking about it all and how it ties into their kids currently. So yeah, we kind of touch on a bunch of things, but it's really just that one section when Robin was interested in having another kid, which now in hindsight, now that I think about it, I think that was right before COVID.
Right, right,
So that could be what put an end to it and not that she couldn't have a kid during COVID. Many people did,
right,
but
right.
she's so paranoid that probably took precedence like of anything else.
Well, that and the fact that they started losing their paychecks.
Well, yeah, there
So
you go.
the
Yeah.
money started getting tight. So she's like, well, can't have another baby because then I might
Yeah.
have to get a job,
Yeah, yeah. Which completely contradicts the spiritual take that she has in the
Right,
show
right.
and everything, which I had in another video too, which is like Robin lies about how spiritual she is in terms of the fact that she hasn't baptized her 2 youngest children, but yet all the rest of them, all the way up to Truly, who's only a year older than Solomon, they're all been baptized.
Right.
But not her 2 youngins anymore. So like how important is this faith to you, Rob? Really? How you didn't even baptize your children into it. So clearly it's not that significant to you. And then this just piggybacks off of that too, that she believes that she has this child that she's communicated with that she needs to bring down. But then COVID came and the
Right,
money
right.
stopped. So
Once
all
the
of a
money
sudden
got
it's like,
tight.
yeah.
Well, you know what? Because I think that that's fair. Like I think it's a fair criticism because a lot of times when this is no shot on like people with the religious beliefs, but it just strikes me as odd that so many times their religious prophecies oftentimes coincides with something that they want in their own personal best interest. Like something they're interested in, all of a sudden there's a prophecy that they're going to have this thing like sister wives seeking sister wives. oh, I talked to the Lord and he told me I should bring on other wives. And but example after example after example of them being denied opportunities to bring these other wives in, and all of a sudden that's not the Lord speaking. He's telling me I need to press through it. So
Right.
the wind blow, that's the Lord telling you to do what you want to do, but
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of obstacles to keep you from doing that thing, that's
Mm-hmm.
not the Lord talking, that's the devil at work. Like, so
Yeah.
it's just a weird place. Like, so that
Ridiculous.
might be from the same place. Like, all of a sudden, you know,
When it's
I'm
not convenient.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
talking to a baby in heaven. And all of a sudden, Christine leaves, Janelle leave, Mary leave, and they all
Yeah.
take their checks with them. Then, well, that baby said he found another family. He's
That's
okay.
right. That baby got really quiet, so it must have gone to another home.
Right. I was wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
but that's where
Yep.
I'm at. Thank you guys for coming in. Oh, before we go, I want to make sure I thank I want to thank Lizzie B for holding down for me in the chat as a
Mm-hmm.
moderator. Appreciate you.
Lori
Also,
Carrad and Lynn Skinner also. Thank you for being here and
yeah.
helping out.
Yeah, of course, everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much. And
Yes.
hold it down for us. I will give you some fun time for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Appreciate you. So guys, make sure you take care of yourselves this week. I'll be back next week talking about Robin. We'll actually stay. Maybe I'll find something else to do, because I think after Robin, there's only one more chapter left in the book.
Mm-hmm.
We shall see. I'll see what I can pull up. Maybe I'll try to push it. But I want you guys to all enjoy your week. Either way,
Yes.
so much for joining us. That's my take. I'm James, and
I'm Jenny.
there you go. She's in Senior Perspective. Make sure you check both channels. Oh, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And
Thank
if
you.
you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Do it now.
Because that way you get the good times and you get first on the videos. We'll drop new
That's
videos.
right.
And I will be dropping more videos this week too, because I had fun with the last ones. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Take it easy.